What's good, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people, Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguised Coverage, the only podcast in existence that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin and is presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. That is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app and or platform you are listening to this show on or watching this show on. I also wanted to plug this real quick for my friends at One Pie Pizza, Toys for Tots, Drive, and Donation. I've been speaking about it the last couple of weeks. They're starting to wrap that up as they push everything forward towards the holidays. So stop in, treat yourself with some delicious homemade blue cheese, cup and char pepperoni pizza, great sweet sauce pie and cheese, and also, do some good for the community. Like I say it all the time, Christmas is my favorite holiday. I know that's the same for a lot of people, but for some people, it's not a good time. So stop in, get the opportunity to win some prizes if that, tickles your fancy in terms of making you a little more giving come this holiday season. But, get some of the best pizza in Buffalo and also do some good for the community and the people in it and help out some people who could use it. I am, of course, Anthony Prohaska, your host of this show. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. In tonight's episode, I am joined in the first half of this episode by one of my favorite guests to go inside Bills versus Cowboys. We're going to talk schematics, X's and O's, top matchups, 3 from each of us, as we do here on this show when I have guests who know ball. So that way we can talk about scheme, structure, and all that fun stuff in the back end. Oh, no, that is right. Back end of this episode. I'm going to get into a film breakdown of some pieces coming out of the Kansas City Chiefs game. The game that the Buffalo Bills won was an important one, and we're going to go over some schematics of some things that Joe Brady's been doing on offense, dive into some of those pieces, things that he's been building upon, things that have been working well and driving success for this offense. So back into the episode, some film breakdowns of what Joe Brady and the Bills offense is doing. But in the forefront, the meat of this episode, like I said, I am joined by one of my favorite guests, making his third appearance this season, Mr. JP Acosta from SB Nation. The Bills are 1-1 in your appearances thus far. I had you on for Dolphins week. Awesome episode. Bills won. Had you on for Jaguars week. Awesome episode. Bills played like crap and lost. And it was super ironic because a whole bunch of the things we talked about in that episode is what came to fruition for the Jags, and the Jags won that game. So here we are. The potential rubber match breaking episode as the Bills sit 1-1. You technically sit 1-1, and I'm pumped to have you on the show. Like I mentioned, you're a dude who knows ball. Your Twitter game is awesome. Your writing game is awesome with SB Nation. I enjoyed the hell out of you. The previous 2 times you were on, so I'm pumped to welcome you back for a really tremendous game that should be fun schematically, and I'm pumped to talk about it with you. And thanks for coming back.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again. We are 1-1. Something's got to give at this point. This feels like the traditional wrestling feud where one guy wins one, then another guy wins at the next pay-per-view. They got to settle it with a blow-off match at Mania. And this feels like the blow-off match at Mania for the Bills. Last week was the biggest game of the year. Now this week is the biggest game of the year. Every week going forward is the biggest game of the year for this team. And it's really exciting. I think there's going to be 2 really good teams going head-to-head and some really fun players going head-to-head. I think it's going to be really cool.
I like the way you broke that down because I love wrestling. You love wrestling. And it's man, it feels like every single match is like do or die. I can't believe I said match game, but match works if we're going with the wrestling thing. Like every game is just do or die for this Buffalo Bills team. And yeah, like, you know what? It's funny too. Like I don't know who the face and the heel is here. Like we don't really know who's going to get like that rubber match victory. This isn't like a John Cena scenario where you're like, well, Cena's going to win the third match. Like he's coming away out of this victory. It's like the Kevin Owens Cena feud. I remember he won that first one. And I remember a bunch of my friends being like, bro, like they're really going to do it. They're going to push Kevin Owens. I'm like, they're going to do 2 more matches and Cena's going to win them both. They're like, no, dude, it's not going to happen. Lo and behold, that happened. But neither of us are John Cena. And we'll see what happens coming out of this game. And going into it, JP, like you said, man, like this game schematically is awesome, but also from an individual player standpoint, especially like with the Cowboys, they got some studs this year that are rolling on both sides of the ball that go in and fit really well with like who they are schematically. And from a structure standpoint, it's part of the reason they're sitting there at 10-3 and had a really impressive victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. One of those impressive players, depending on how you define impressive and or what you like, is Dak Prescott, who is balling out this year. And you and I were talking about him offline. Before we dive into the matchup pieces and the structure pieces of this show, give me your thoughts on Dak Prescott. He, you can define it as like he's a top blank quarterback in the NFL? Do you rank him somewhere? Do you use certain, verbiage to describe who and what he is? Because he plays so technically sound and produces and is also like super hated and gets knocked all the time by people. Where does Dak Prescott sit in your eyes?
Well, currently among quarterbacks right now, I mean, he is arguably playing at the highest level of any quarterback in the league this year. I mean, he has just been a buzzsaw of efficiency. That is where, when you watch the Cowboys, they are the most brutally efficient NFL offense right now. They can just hammer away at like the 12-yard. Like we make jokes about it on Twitter. Dak Prescott has never seen a seam route he does not throw. He will throw the 12 to 15-yard seam route. That is like, if we're going to keep it with wrestling, this is the John Cena 5-knuckle shuffle. He's gonna throw the 5-knuckle shuffle. Sometime during that match, no matter what happens, he's throwing that 5-knuckle shuffle. This is Dak's 5 moves of doom.
I like it.
The seam ball, he is just so efficient with his movement. He is a teach tape quarterback. I think with the way that he moves, the way he understands coverages pre and post snap, I think a perfect play from the Eagles game is one of the first seam routes he throws. He knows what the coverage is, looks off the middle defender, the middle safety, and then fires a laser in there. The Brandon Cooks throw at the end of the first half, just a heat check, disgusting heat check throw. But I feel like with Dak Prescott, we see the star on the side of the helmet and go, oh, he's a Cowboys quarterback. He's not that good. And so I feel like we're kind of going to Tony Romo Dak Prescott. And by that, I mean, Tony Romo was really good, but he never really got like the attention or the or built up as like, yeah, he was one of the better quarterbacks from that 2013 to 2016, 2017 period of football. But he doesn't get that because he was a Cowboys quarterback. So we're always going to be like, oh, he plays for the Cowboys. Oh, they do it in the playoffs. Oh, can't win the big one. When this year they've been one of the most efficient, one of the most effective offenses in the NFL, especially after losing to San Francisco. I think that San Francisco game I say it all the time. It's like in animes or in a movie. The main character has to get beat up once. You got to get beat up early or beat up sometime by the bully. The Niners are the bully. You got to get beat up. It's like, okay, sticking with wrestling, you got to get squashed. Sometimes, like with Daniel Bryan, he had to lose. He had to lose early in order for you to build up the sympathy. The Cowboys got smoked by the 49ers early in the season, but then did self-scouting out of that. They were so static beforehand. Now it's just so much more movement. And now that you're joining that movement with players playing at their highest level, this offense is so fun and so efficient to watch. And I'm enjoying watching Dak this year. He's been amazing.
Yeah, he's just, like you said, like he's just so efficient, so surgical, so precise. And it's so funny too, you mentioned the seam ball piece. I just remember hitting, he hits the tight ends on it so much. And I remember being like, oh, man, Dalton Schultz is so great for that. And it's like, no, we're just going to put Ferguson in and just do the same thing because it's really more Dak than anything else. And he just lasers it in there. And he's sitting right now. It's funny you mentioned the 49ers. Brock Purdy is number 1 in terms of quarterbacks in the EPA per play. Dak Prescott is number 2, right ahead of Josh Allen in terms of EPA per play. And then EPA plus completion percentage over expected composite. Dak Prescott is also second in that regard. So kind of like any efficiency metric you want to look at, Dak is there, leading the pack. And just, again, this Cowboys team is rolling. They got studs all over on both sides of the ball. But Dak, for better or for worse, is always going to be that focal point. And like you said, too, when you play for the Cowboys, it's so easy because how they get built up as America's team. Even if they suck, they're going to get primetime games and they're going to get talked about all the time. So they're super easy to hate. I hate the Cowboys. And granted, I'm a Buffalo guy and I wasn't really conscious during the Super Bowl losses in the 90s, but I hate the Cowboys for taking those away from, my potential childhood. But it's so easy to hate the Cowboys. And I remember thinking, it's ironically with the Jags, I think back when they lost to the Jags last year, and the multiple deflection interceptions, where his receivers are just dropping it, it's popping to the air, and everybody's like, here's Dak with another like 3 interception game. It's like 2 of those were put right into his guy's hands and they just booted it and it got picked. Like, especially the Rayshon Jenkins one I think that was the one in OT or late.
That was the game winner.
Yeah, right. Okay. And but people look at it and just want the opportunity to like hate on Dak. And it's so funny to see how like polarizing of a player he is because, like he said, like for the people who, quote unquote, no ball, he is like that teach tape quarterback. Like you said, like his footwork, his eyes, where he goes in his progression, his ability to go from like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, his decision making. And then something we were talking about offline, he's been more willing to use his legs a bit more this year, not necessarily to like scramble and get yards, although he is doing that more, but just to evade and create things off script. Like even the opening touchdown to CeeDee Lamb against the Eagles is him evading and like trying to extend the play and hit CeeDee on that drag, and it's a tutty. Like him being more willing to run and use that athleticism that he has, even though he is so robotic and mechanical and not in a bad way. I've always thought he had more athleticism that he was tapping into, especially like, granted he's a different quarterback now, but especially when you looked at what he was at Mississippi State, which is more of like that dual threat kind of hammer type of quarterback. And so it's fun to see him tap a little bit into that athleticism and pair it with his efficiency and precision and just who he is. Yeah, and they've been super impressive to watch. Like you look at the stats, you look at the metrics, you watch them on tape, like everything with their offense is just precision, and it's so fun to watch. I wanted to bring this comment from RJ. RJ said, does that make Josh Allen Will Ospreay? I love the Will Ospreay reference, but 2, I refuse to compare Josh Allen to anyone ever. I did, before the season started, I did like a random tweet of NFL quarterbacks and their Dragon Ball Z counterpart, and I called Josh Allen Cell, because he was a combination of all these different things, just like Cell was, like all these different pieces. And so many people came at me to be like, no, Josh Allen has to be Goku, Josh Allen, Goku. And I was like, they were like, why would he be Cell? And I gave my reasoning. They're like, oh, that makes sense, but it still sucks. I refuse to compare Josh Allen to anyone ever, but I do appreciate this reference.
So I don't think Josh Allen's Will Ospreay, although that's really good. My wrestler comparison for Josh Allen has always been Jeff Hardy. Like,
wow,
Jeff
that's
Hardy.
So good.
Like, look, he's got everybody behind him, but you just know he's going to jump off something.
Yeah.
He's going to jump off of something very high. It doesn't, we don't know if it's going to hurt him or the other person more, but it's going to look really cool.
Yeah.
He's going to run like 1 yard by the sideline and throw it across his body. Sometimes it might work, sometimes it doesn't, but hey, that's what you sign up for when you watch a Jeff Hardy match. Like we know what's going to happen here. Somebody's going to bring out a table. Somebody's going to go off a ladder.
Yep.
Like I just keep remembering the SummerSlam with Jeff Hardy and CM Punk. He's going through that announce table.
Yep.
Somebody's going through that announce table. Josh Allen, if there were announce tables on the field, Josh Allen's going through an announce table.
Absolutely. He's just waiting to swanton bomb or whisper in the wind through something. And it doesn't matter if, he's in WWE or if he's in TNA. He's just like, hey, what's the highest point in this arena? Cool. Can I jump off of that through something? Yeah, well, like the guy you're going against doesn't really want to take that move. Oh, it's fine. He can move off the table. I'll just go through it myself.
I'll just jump. Like,
I'll just do it. And that's Josh Allen, right? Like, dude, you already got the first down. You don't have to go through that. Okay, he tried to go through that guy. Okay, cool.
Cool. Sure. Like, hey, it might not work, but it's going to look really fun.
I like it. I like it a lot. Ooh, I like the way that sets the table for, I didn't even mean that as a pun, but that was actually super funny. I like the way that sets the table for this conversation. For those of you playing at home, myself and JP are each going to give our top 3 schematic components, pieces, however you want to verbalize it, that will decide Bills versus Cowboys. They could be large scale or they could be granular. It could be one side of the ball versus the other. It could be a specific formation, personnel grouping, player, position group, coach. Anything and everything is on the table, as wide scale or as granular and niche as we want it to be. JP doesn't know my answers. And I don't know his, so we keep it organic. We might have the same, we might have different, who knows, we might fight, God knows. It's up to everyone, and that'll be fun. For those of you playing at home, live chat, questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, throw them up into the chat. Let us know what you think of our answers and our reasonings. Feel free to put your own matchup pieces into the chat. That's part of what makes the live engagement so fun. And with that said, JP, the floor is yours. I don't know if you have them ranked like first, second, third, but feel free, whichever one you want to start with, the floor is yours, and I will follow suit. Godspeed.
So my first one is kind of going off of the Josh Allen thing again, and I if you see me on Twitter, I know I compare a lot of quarterbacks to the song that's playing in their head. So this is my first one. Josh Allen needs to go into break stuff mode for this game. He has to go into break stuff mode. I've always said every quarterback has a song playing in their head. Brock Purdy's is Freebird because when he hears specifically the guitar solo, because if he hears a guitar solo, we don't know what's going to happen after that. But he just knows, oh, it's Freebird time, and he's going to go driving off the cliff. Josh Allen's is break stuff because sometimes things just need to be broken. It's again with the Jeff Hardy thing. And what I mean by that schematically is as much as I think the Cowboys defense is really good, like right now they're 6th in EPA per play against the run, according to Sports Info Solutions, but they have not had the ball like run on them a lot. If you look at Sports Info Solutions through the first 13 games of the season, of course, they're 20th in rushing attempts against the defense. And where I think this team can be gotten, and I think the Eagles were getting there. The Eagles were moving the ball really well, but the turnovers kind of threw them off. They were able to move the ball on the ground. The Cowboys played really light up front. Like, of course, they only rostered 3 linebackers going into the season, and one of those linebackers playing right now is 205 pounds. Playing a 205-pound linebacker is really cool when everybody's throwing the ball, but it's not that cool when you have a right guard who's 330 pounds hitting you in the face. That kind of sucks. I think the Bills can have the advantage on the ground if they want it, especially if they use Josh Allen in the run game. I think that's something that Joe Brady has leaned into a lot. I think even before this season with Ken Dorsey, and kind of the mantra around the Bills in previous years was, it's a big game when Josh Allen's running on designed runs. Now you're starting to see that week over week. You can tell that Josh Allen's healthy. I think they need to embrace that quarterback run game, especially against this Cowboys team, because, like, look, man, he is – again, this is break stuff mode. He needs to get something to break. And unfortunately, it's going to be some poor Cowboys defensive back who has to try and tackle Josh Allen running at him. It's like trying to tackle an elk that's off of like a Four Loko.
Dude, you are on like crazy on point with the analogies, the comparisons tonight. I like that piece a lot. And it's funny, I debated doing, I remember scouting the Cowboys coming a little bit in the offseason because, when, it was rumored, like, not rumored, but when it seemed like Jordan Poyer wasn't going to come back to the Bills, one of my favorite replacement options for him was Donovan Wilson from the Cowboys. So I watched a bunch of Cowboys tape watching, for Donovan Wilson, and then watched some of their tape going into the year, just because of how good they were as a defense last year and how much they changed and did some things. And one of the big things that stands out is just, like their undersized personnel groupings, and they're throwing out like Malik Hooker out there with Jaron Kearse and with Donovan Wilson. And then now this year, it's like you got Bell at linebacker and Clark at linebacker, and Clark's 240, but Bell's sitting there at 205. So like, even when you're in like a nickel personnel grouping, you're still basically in dime because like Bell's like a linebacker, but he's the size of like a defensive back, and the rushing pieces that go with it. I love that you kind of, again, this isn't one of my points, but I love that you kind of tee me up for it because I have notes on it. Like you said, 6th in EPA per attempt as a defense, against them, which is tremendous. So like 6th best for those, listening and playing at home. And when you look at total EPA, they're 7th in terms of total EPA on the ground, which is like, oh, okay, that's still pretty good. But if you look at success rate, which is the measure of like how many plays are generating positive EPA against them, they are 31st in the NFL, ahead of only the Carolina Panthers. And this Buffalo Bills team comes into this game 1st in EPA per attempt on the ground. And that is not just due to Josh Allen. That is due to the success they've seen with James Cook and Latavius Murray and Ty Johnson now, who has been, one of the things we were talking about on the show once Brady took over for Dorsey was, who's going to be like that person that gets inserted into the lineup that makes you go like, oh, this is somebody who Joe Brady believes in. Nobody was guessing it was going to be Ty Johnson. And it's been Ty Johnson who's been effective out of the backfield. They've got a legitimate like group in the back that can run the ball consistently. They've got a good athletic offensive line that can get downhill on teams. They've got concepts that work, mainly tackle, wrap, and dart and duo. They're still leaning into those pieces like they did earlier in the year, and then they'll bust out mid zone when they need it. They're still leaning into that, but now they've incorporated more of that Josh Allen run game. A lot of it with scrambles, like Joe Brady spreading teams out and giving Allen that opportunity to use his legs from an off-script scramble perspective, but also the design pieces are starting to come back a little bit. And I really feel like the Bills can get the Cowboys defense in that regard. One, if you're running it all the time, you kind of help neutralize Micah Parsons a little bit because he's a terror coming off the edge of the pass rush. But two, you're good at running the ball. Dallas is good at defending it, kind of, but not really. And also from a size perspective, that's a matchup that favors the Bills, especially if they're going in these 6-0 line sets like they love to do. And they're throwing David Edwards out there as like a quasi tight end, but he's really a 6th offensive lineman. Like, how does Dallas match that? Even if the Bills stay in 12, Dallas probably feels like, okay, cool, we're going to match it with our regular personnel, but the Bills can mash teams downhill. It's such a fun schematic piece considering like what the numbers are, but also what the matchup dictates and tells you. I love that point so much.
Yeah, and you hit on it a little earlier with the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys want to get you to 2nd and long and 3rd and long. That's when they get into those games where you're going to have Micah Parsons lined up over a center or over a guard. You can't do that on 2nd and 4 because they're just going to run it right at him because that's not what he does. Micah Parsons is amazing, but he's not a nose tackle, Yeah. So I think just leaning into like, look, they're going to play light. They're going to kind of dare the Bills, like, hey, run the ball, go ahead. Mm-hmm. They are built to defend like spread offenses. They're built to defend teams that want to throw the ball a lot because they want you to get in the 2nd and 3rd and longs. Take those RPOs and just turn them into R's. Just run it. And you use Josh Allen not only as like the battering ram, but as a threat in the run game. Use his threat of like taking off. Use that in the run game. It doesn't always have to be like, oh, Josh Allen QB power 15 times, but use that threat. Use the option as like, oh, like he could take off. That's going to slow down that defense. What you want to do to the Cowboys defense is just slow them down a little bit. You don't have to like necessarily like overwhelm them physically. Like, that'd be great, but just slow them down. Slow up the timing. Slow up the process a little bit for that defense.
I love it. And then they've been adept at incorporating more. I mean, especially, it's no like secret like Joe Brady, RPO, like LSU, like that whole piece, but they've incorporated more RPO elements or, just adding like pass tags to their run concepts to make things start to open up a little bit. And Allen has been better at whether it's, him flipping the switch and realizing like, I got to get my stuff together because Dorsey got fired, or Joe Brady has been able to tap into Allen a little bit more. Like earlier in the year, we saw just kind of basic stuff like, like if it's an RPO piece or like a run with like more like the pass tag, like, we're going to run dart, but we got a bubble screen over there. It's basic. Like if the numbers in the box are advantageous to the run, you run. If the numbers are advantageous to the pass, throw the bubble. And he just like wasn't doing it. He'd have like 3/2 on the bubble. He'd be like, I'm going to throw the bubble. And it's like, no, that is not what the math says. And then you'd go back later and there'd be like 8 in the box. And he'd be like, you know what? I'm going to hand it off on dart. And it's like, no, that's not where the numbers are. He's been better with his decision-making, and the Bills are finding more success with these pieces. And that's just another like option and what makes this Bills offense so dangerous. Once they are able to run the ball, then you start building and getting into their RPO world and their pass tag world, let alone like Josh Allen actually keeping it. And then you start to get into that modern day triple option football where he can hand it off, he can keep it, he can pass it, and then adding in the propensity for the Cowboys defense to play man coverage. And now you're stressing, all right, cool. Can we create some traffic? Can we get a pick? Can we get a rub here or there? Like there's all these opportunities to start to present themselves that all stem from Josh Allen's legs and break stuff and that overall run game for the Bills. Like, oh, I like that point.
Yeah. And even with the point that you made about man coverage, if they play man coverage, you can just run it. Like if Josh Allen sees it and they're playing man, just go. Like I'm not saying like go one read and fly, like, but if he has it in this game and there's a lane, and this is the biggest thing with playing against Josh Allen and the Bills, you cannot play 2-man against the Bills and Josh Allen because Josh Allen will run. He is the most effective scrambler in the NFL. Not only in just getting first down, but generating explosive plays with his legs. This is going to be one of those games where if he doesn't see it, break stuff mode. Just go full berserker Like this is like we're going straight into Dungeons and Dragons. Like go full barbarian berserker, tear it up. Like it has to be like Josh Allen threat of run game and just get at them. Don't let them dictate the flow of the game.
I love that piece. And I love that schematic aspect as well of the man coverage piece, and for those again playing at home, when you are in man coverage, that basically takes a defender kind of out of the run fit. And so if they're out of the run fit, then that gives you opportunities to kind of gash defenders and defenses. And that's another piece that, kind of actually ties into one of my points later. So I like you setting the table again. Well done. Well done. I never know which order to go in because I treat everything equally. I'm just going to tie this one in since we've kind of talked about them a little bit. Usually I go very schematic. Like it's very much like this formation or this personnel grouping versus this or how this does this and the domino effect. 2 of my 3 tonight are just one player related because Dallas has 2 players that I think are phenomenal. One, I'm going to lead with the first, Micah Parsons. Like, let's just talk like that. And like that, my first point, just for first schematic piece is how the Bills handle Micah Parsons. We talked about him a little already, but his numbers, just bananas. He's tied for first in pressures with 82. He's got 6.3 per game. He's first in PFF's pass rush productivity, which is a formula that combines sacks, hits, and hurries relative to how many times a player rushes the passer. And then he's also 14th in pass rush snaps from a volume perspective. So the fact that he's first in pass rush productivity, considering he gets a ton of pass rush snaps, speaks to how effective he is down in and down out. He's first in ESPN's pass rush win rate at 37%. Myles Garrett, who is kind of everyone's like unanimous defensive player of the year, is second at 30%. So Parsons has a 7 percentage point higher pass rush win rate than Myles Garrett, who's been killing everybody. Parsons is also second in PFF's win percentage. He's 8th in sacks. He is just a game wrecker at the position in every which way, every sense of the word. He's got pass rush moves from an initial standpoint. He's got counters. He can beat you around the arc with speed and athleticism. He's got bend. He's got strength. He's got shock and pop in his hands. He can go through you with a bull rush or just that speed to power element that he possesses. It all starts really with that speed and athleticism. And I don't like saying that because I really feel like he's a 5-tool player at edge and can do anything and everything. But that speed and athleticism, you have to honor it going around the arc, like, because he'll beat you in an instant. But then if you open up too much, he's just going to turn it and then go through you like he did to Lane Johnson on several reps.
That is the most impressive pass rush move I have seen this season. Going through Lane Johnson, who, again, the week before, Nick Bosa tried to do the same thing to Lane Johnson and got stonewalled the entire game. Micah Parsons did it on the first drive and walked him into Jalen Hurts. Like he's a typhoon of just power and explosion. And it's not just like, it's not explosion how you think of, bend around the corner, which he can do. It's explosion in terms of, I'm going to go upfield for 2 steps, and then I'm going to go right through you. And if you overset, he has so many just amazing inside counters, whether it be an inside spin, inside swim move. He has such he's still developing that toolbox of inside counters, but it also doesn't really matter because he's so quick and so strong and so explosive. And he's so he's not like Max Crosby is legitimately relentless, but Micah Parsons never stops moving. That's the thing. Like he's always constantly putting together moves. It's never, I'm going to do this and then stop. It's, I'm going to do this. This doesn't work. I'm going to do this. If this outside move doesn't work, I'm going to spin. If the spin doesn't work, I'm going to cut back outside. Either way, I'm going to get to this quarterback one way or another.
Yeah, he's just a whirling dervish of moves on top of moves and speed and strength and technicality, and he's terrifying off the edge. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter who he goes against. Cool, if you're a regular tackle, cool, he's probably going to get you. Even if you're one of the best in the league, he's still probably going to get you. And the ones where he goes through you, and this is just a mentality thing for me, I feel those are the ones that take your soul. as like a tackle or an offensive lineman. It's one thing to be like, oh man, he got me on the spin, or man, that was a great cross chop, he got me, or I was a little slow out of my stance and he beat me around the arc. It is a completely different thing for a dude to go through your chest and drive you into the backfield, and you can't anchor, you can't do anything, and you're just off kilter, and he's going through you en route to your quarterback. That takes your soul. That is a very discouraging, disappointing feeling to have when you just get ran through by Micah Parsons. And then on top of that, so you got Parsons, who's an absolute stud. I was surprised at this one. Dante Fowler is tied for third in pass rush productivity. You have DeMarcus Lawrence at 34th, and you have Dorrance Armstrong at 43rd. Like they've got, and then you have like Odigizua, who's also like a positive force up front. And like, we'll see what happens with Hankins, but they've got a good rotation on that D line aside from Parsons, but it's spearheaded by just this unicorn of an edge rusher that, and like you said, like, and then, okay, cool. If you're going to get in second and long or third and long and it's predictable, now we start to play matchup games. And are we going to line them up over your guard, or do we line them up over your center? And then we try to put you into 5-0 protection and we start to game you up a little bit and see what happens. And then it starts to you start to play into that hand, which you don't need to do, because even if you're not playing into that hand, he's still going to win. But if you set up that opportunity even more, if you get into those third and longs and third and predictables, that's when it gets even scarier. And the Bills' offensive line on the whole this year has been so much better than it has in recent years. Spencer Brown, though, at right tackle, although much better, he's playing average to above average in a lot of ways. They've given him a ton of help whenever they've played legitimate edge rushers. The Raiders game was easy because, no disrespect to anybody, there's no one else on that front aside from Max Crosby. So it was like, cool, we're just literally going to line up a tight end or a running back always to the right, and we're going to chip Crosby every single time. Chip, whether it was direct or indirect. Washington, very similar piece. We're chipping Sweat, we're chipping Young, like we're going to do that with regularity. I wonder how much help they give Spencer Brown. They did it again a bit with Kansas City. He struggled at times, but kind of held his own a bit at Kansas City. But when going up against those elite dudes, and this is no knock on Spencer Brown, like going up against elite dudes are going to stress you out. But when the Chiefs would put Chris Jones on that outside, he would struggle a little bit. And Chris Jones is in that tier of pass rusher that you do not want to see. And I wonder how consistent this offensive line is going up against a player of Micah Parsons' caliber, especially on that right side against Spencer Brown. How much help do they have to give him, especially now that they've been leading into more, 3-by-2 full spread looks to spread out defenses and take advantage of Allen's scrambling ability like you talked about. But if you're not confident in your line holding up, whether it's one position or multiple, then it starts to monkey with your, ability to kind of commit to those spread looks because you don't feel confident in your pass protection integrity.
Yeah, and if we're sticking with comparisons to pro wrestlers, Micah Parsons is WCW Goldberg. Like,
wow.
It's going to end quick. It's going to end brutally.
Spear, jackhammer. That's it.
Spear, jackhammer. We're getting in. We're getting our moves off. We're going through the smoke. We're doing the little your next. We're doing the jumping thing. But we're getting our moves off. Guys, Micah Parsons gets in. And just the explosion, that is the biggest thing. He goes from 0 to 60 in an instant. Mm-hmm. I do wonder how much help Buffalo gives, especially like you said, when they go to those empty open sets. One thing that we saw that Seattle did, when they would go to those empty open sets, Dallas would just game them. And they would game them so much from those mug fronts. And that's really where they want to get you. They want to be able to put both those guys up there and be like, okay, we might bring 6, so you might have to send help. Or if you don't send help, you're going to end up wasting a blocker, or we're going to get a one-on-one. And I wonder how much help they give Spencer Brown, and do they kind of have a, hey, find 11 on every passing down. You got to find them because they're going to line them up everywhere. They're going to line them up inside of DeMarcus Lawrence on passing downs. They're going to put them over the left tackle, over the right tackle. They might put them up over the center. But you have to know where he is at all points in time during the game.
Yeah. Are you going to slide to him? Are you looking for like a chipper? Like, are you going to, instead of going, true spread, are you going to do kind of that Rams spread with the, the chip help on each side of the offensive line that they did a ton of the Super Bowl run that more teams have done recently? Like, it can really put you in a bind. And I love the 2-man game, or the game piece in general that you mentioned with what the Cowboys did against Seattle. Because from a overall offensive line standpoint, when the Bills have struggled, not just on an individual level, that right side Osiris Torrance has been phenomenal as a rookie. Like, he's really been a nice, consistent anchor, no pun intended, for the Bills offensive line. Him and Spencer Brown have really worked well together going back to the preseason, but they have struggled at times when you game them up. They will struggle at times with, passing off. And when I say struggle, it's not like, somebody kind of got through. It's like, no, this was blown and there's a free runner coming on the inside, like, or the spiker just comes completely free, or the spiker takes them both out and the looper is clean. And that's even worse. Like, you could use Parsons, just to win a one-on-one, or use him as that spiker and let him just kill two dudes and then force them to try and get the looper, or stress their communication and who's picking up the looper up. Now we just let the spiker go. Like, it just creates all of these leverage scenarios when you're placed into that situation. Oh man, but he's so awesome to watch. He's so
amazing.
Fun.
He's so amazing.
And I love the Goldberg comp, but I'm always torn by it. Like, Goldberg has some of my favorite wrestling memories as a kid, like when he beat Raven and when he jackhammered like the Giant, and when he beat Hogan like on Nitro, like so many awesome moments. But my favorite wrestler of all time is also Bret Hart. So Goldberg also kills me because he ruined Bret Hart. Like, I'm so conflicted with Goldberg all the time.
See, and I kind of wonder for this game, do the Bills kind of invite the Cowboys to be like, yeah, blitz Josh Allen, see what happens. If you want to get into a chaos battle with King Chaos,
with Professor Chaos,
like, you really want to do that? Okay, we'll play that game. Like, we're cool rocking with Josh Allen under pressure because, hey, we signed up for this one. It's like, we're really reaching every reference. It's like in Jujutsu Kaisen, anime is going on right now. It's amazing. There's a character, Megumi, and anytime the cards are down, he is summoning a giant curse that is going to kill him, but also everybody in the area. It's like Chaozu from Dragon Ball Z.
Nice.
He is going to blow himself up, but he's going to blow everything else up too. Do you invite that with Josh Allen and the Bills? Do you want to go, hey, we're going to blitz you. Yeah, we're gonna live with this chaos, see what happens. I don't think you want to play that game because, hey, sometimes it might not work, but if you have to blitz Josh Allen with some dudes that wear double-digit jersey numbers. You can't have a single-digit jersey number trying to tackle him. That's not going to work. So I wonder if they kind of, instead of blitzing, do they show the pressure and then drop off? Is it kind of like another like simulated pressure kind of game from them where we're trying to make it so that Josh Allen thinks he sees something, but then he actually doesn't see it? Like, again, with the Jeff Hardy comparison, we want to make it look like we're lying down so you can swanton bomb us, but we're going to get the knees up at the last minute. So I wonder if they kind of invite the chaos in this game, or do they kind of like, no, we're not gonna let him go off the leash. We're gonna try and constrain that a little bit.
As soon as you mentioned like that chaos piece and kind of inviting it, like, it brought me back to the Marshawn Lynch quote where he's like, I know I'm going to get got, but I'm going to get mine. Like, I'm going to get mine more than I get got, or like something like that. Like, and that's kind of what Josh Allen is like. Like, okay, you're going to get me, but I'm going to get you more than you get me. And then you kind of like play chicken, or that Russian roulette type of piece. And again, that's why I think the run is so important. Like, run right at Micah Parsons, run right at this Cowboys defense that is more undersized in terms of their personnel and what they like to do, and use or try to mitigate or neutralize their best weapon or their best piece. And then again, ties into the RPO game and pass tags and play action and all that. Like, there's so many things that stem from this one player, which again, I think speaks to the gravity he has as a player. Like, Parsons is just absolutely wild in all like good ways. Well, good ways if you're a Cowboys fan, bad ways if you're anybody else. Point number 2 for you, Mr. JP Acosta. What do you got?
So I'm not sure how to phrase it, but Dak Prescott against the Bills' aggression. And what I mean by this is, when Dak is hot, when he's on time, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. When he's on time, when he is unfazed. He's been better against pressure this year, of course, because like you said, he's able to use his legs a lot more. But this is kind of going to go into a point that I made earlier in the year when you brought me on for the Dolphins. You need to slow them down. And how you slow them down is slowing up the timing. We talk a lot about the song that Josh Allen has in his head. Dak Prescott has the orchestra, like the live orchestra, playing in his head. And that's great. That is phenomenal. When the band is going, the band sounds perfect. But when somebody's just a pitch flat, or somebody just plays a wrong note at the wrong time,
The band blows up.
The band messes up. Like everything just shuts off. So you want to disrupt the timing. You want to, and I always think back to that San Francisco game. The 49ers beat them up front physically at the line of scrimmage. They were, and not even talking about the defensive line, the defensive backs, they were slowing up the timing of this offense because it's still based in a West Coast. It's Mike McCarthy. It's so much timing, and Dak is so much of a timing quarterback where he is 1, 2, 3. I know where everything is. One hitch, ball out. You want to slow him down just a little bit. I'm not saying like it's a foolproof, like it's going to turn him into a bad quarterback, but what you want to do against the league's best is make them slow down a little bit. Just slow them down just a tick. Just give your pass rush a little bit more time to get there. So I wonder if the Bills lean more into, we're going to press at the line of scrimmage. We're going to try and be physical. We're going to try and throw them off a little bit. If you want to beat our guys deep, go ahead and try. You have to make that outside throw. You have to compete with not only a defender, but with the sideline. Go ahead and see if you can make that low percentage throw. But you got to try and disrupt that timing, disrupt the rhythm and flow of that offense. Because if the Cowboys offense gets into a flow, they will score on every drive.
Once it starts cooking, like it's so hard to like really get him to stop. And I love that point that you made. And again, it harkens back to what we talked about earlier. Like this offense is so efficient. It's so rhythmic. But if you can get them out of that rhythm, it doesn't mean you're going to stop them. But that's when you start to kind of throw a little bit of a wrench into the machinery a little bit and try to cause some inefficiencies. And, it's funny for Bills fans out there, Kurt Warner did a bunch of breakdowns of the Bills offense before Dorsey got fired and after Dorsey got fired. And one of the things he talked about was Josh Allen's feet not necessarily being in lockstep with the routes and within the progressions for the Bills offense. And it's the opposite with the Cowboys. Like Dak's drops, Dak's footwork, his eyes, everything is in lockstep with the routes. It is very, like you said, 1, 2, 3, ball out. And then the receiver knows, like, I take 7 steps and I do this, I'm going to turn and the ball is going to be there. Everything is based on timing and rhythm and rapport. And if you can throw off that timing, if you can throw off that rapport, and sometimes, again, it doesn't have to be the prettiest thing. Like, 2-hand jams aren't ideal mostly on the outside, but, throw a 2-hand jam. Just do something. If you have to add a half a second or maybe like a whole second if you can, and just throw that off a little bit, trying to add beats to Dak's drop back. And, as much as we talked about him tapping into some more of his athleticism this year, I think you do have to try to make him play off script. You cannot let him sit 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. You cannot let him sit and scan and go from 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3 and whatever he has to do. You have to get him off his spot. You have to get him off the rhythm, off the timing. Easier said than done. There's a reason they're 10-3 and not a lot of teams have done it. There's also, talking about that Niners team, one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in football, especially at that time with Hufanga when he was still out there before he was banged up. Like, they have a really good blueprint for it with the size they have overall in the defense, but such a big, fast, physical, angry type of defense. And I love the way you phrased it. Like, it's that aggression. And it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, hit everybody really hard and blitz. It just means like that mentality of challenging the Cowboys receivers and pass catchers and linemen as well on every single play in order to disrupt their comfortability and their rhythm that they're trying to operate within.
Yeah, we talked about it up front with Josh Allen and the offense. And my first point, you have to be the aggressor in this game. You cannot sit back and let the Cowboys run layup lines on you. You have to you got to be able to show something. You got to get a hand in the face. We talked about, like, with rhythm, you think about a lot of great 3-point shooters coming off a screen, shooting the 3. That's rhythm. Spot up jumper. Now they're in a rhythm. And then you get like Klay Thompson scoring 60 points on 2 dribbles. Like that's what the Cowboys offense can do. But what you do is you got to get a hand in the face, get in the hip pocket, stay there with them. Don't let them get comfortable. Force them to play off scripts. Force them to play out of that rhythm. If that's how they beat you, fine. But you're not going to let them kind of just march up and down the field on you with that efficiency that they play with. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to blitz. We're going to be like I think aggression gets kind of skewed when we talk about defense in the NFL and in football in general. We think of aggression as, oh, we're gonna blitz a lot and we're gonna like do all this really cool thing. Like, no, like aggression can also just mean jam at the line of scrimmage, press the line of scrimmage, playing a bit more up front, playing stronger up front. You want to disrupt their timing, make them think other things, change the picture defensively, just do something to get them off of that rhythm.
Yeah, it's playing on the forefront and playing on your front foot, and it can be, and I that's kind of why I mentioned, like, I don't want anybody to think like aggression be like, oh, cool, that means they need to blitz more. No, like aggression to me, like you said, like one of the things that's aggression for me is disguising your fronts and disguising your coverages, like constantly spinning safeties, rocking and rolling, making them think we're going to rush these four, but psych, we're actually running a simulator pressure and we're running these four, like delayed blitzes and creepers and like all this stuff, things that you are doing to tax an opponent physically, but also mentally. And that's what you need to do. You need to try to change the picture on Dak. You need to try to get this offense off script and off rhythm and out of that comfort zone. Because if you let them live in that zone, like they're just going to gouge you. And it might be like, a couple body shots and a couple like good slices to the gut, or it might just be like death by 1,000 cuts. Because Dak will be comfortable with whatever. He'll hit that seam and he'll take some chunks, or he'll hit a sail concept and take those chunks. But he's comfortable just nickel and diming you down the field, and like you can die both ways, and they both suck. I like that. I'm gonna stick on that Cowboys offense side of the ball. Again, I mentioned 2 of my 3 points tonight are just player specific. So the first one was how the Bills handle Micah Parsons. The second point for me is how the Bills deal with CeeDee Lamb. I had a lot of injuries on my fantasy team this year. CeeDee Lamb kept me afloat for a good chunk of this year. And somebody who I feel like he's been noted as a very good receiver for, I feel like really since like kind of coming in, especially getting, the 88 from the Cowboys and getting that nod from Michael Irvin and being able to rock it. But like what he's done this year, I mean, the 3 straight games with over 10 catches and over 150 yards receiving. And you look at his numbers and he's just an absolute stud. So raw statistics, he's 3rd in receiving yards, tied for 4th in receiving touchdowns, 3rd in catches. 58.5% of his snaps come in the slot, 40.5% come out wide. I think people often think like, oh, well, he's their slot receiver. Yeah, but also no. They will line him up anywhere and everywhere, and he can win anywhere and everywhere. He's got true, legitimate inside-outside versatility with his release package, the size, the physicality, the speed, the quickness, the precision. He can gut you from anywhere, inside, outside. It doesn't matter. You want to put him in an X, you want to put him in motion, you want to do whatever. Like he can get you. But again, like going back to the numbers, 7th in yards per route run. He only has 4 drops on 129 targets. Dude, like nuts. He's 7th in EPA per target amongst 168 players that have at least 30 targets. He's 1st in total receiving EPA. He's 13th in QB rating when targeted. He's 17th in yards per target. He's 2nd in first downs. Like advanced metric, raw metric, you look at him and he's like ahead of the pack. And in a league that is stacked and loaded with receivers, and I don't know if it's playing with Dak or playing in Dallas, but, and this isn't necessarily like a knock on anybody else. Like we know what Jamar Chase can do and Justin Jefferson, and even Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. Like there are a multitude of ultra talented receivers. I don't think CeeDee Lamb gets his due for being like a true like dominant dude as a wide receiver. And the pairing of him with Dak Prescott, we talked about, Dak and efficiency and precision and all of this and rhythm and timing. And CeeDee Lamb fits so perfectly into what Dak does in this offense because of how good he is as a route runner. Like the precision, the deception, the suddenness, the pace, and the timing. He is a true like craftsman at the receiver position, but he's also got speed and athleticism and juice and hands, and he can go up and high point the football and climb the ladder. He can also take a shot. He also is a willing blocker. Like they'll use him and like insert him in the run game, let alone like use him on the outside for screens and stuff. Like he really can do it all and is just an absolute stud. Like we talk about what Micah Parsons is on the defensive side of the ball. And I know on the offensive side of the ball, a lot of everything comes back to Dak Prescott because he's the quarterback of, quote unquote, America's team. And then the little pieces like Tony Pollard gets talked about, and Ferguson's been talked about a bunch now, and Lamb gets recognized, but I don't think he truly gets his just due in terms of being an absolute stud. And the metrics speak to it. And then you put on the tape, and he's just cooking dudes like on, double moves and just simple out routes. And he sets you up and hits you with a quick little 1-2 or a rocker step and leaves you in the dust. Like, he's athletic. He's precise. He is a perfect fit in this offense and partner for Dak Prescott. And how do the Buffalo Bills, deal with him? Are they rolling coverage to him? What do they do when he's in the slot? How much man do they play? Do they bracket him? Do they choose to try and put Rasul Douglas on him versus Benford, or is it whatever side he goes to is where he goes? Also within that, how does Dallas deploy him? Is this more of a slot game for CeeDee? Is it more of an outside game for him? Like, where do they want to attack this Bills defense and how? And especially with the vulnerability for this Bills defense still being on the interior, Tyrell Dodson is not a good coverage linebacker. The other option there is Dorian Williams, who isn't there from a processing perspective as a rookie. And then Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who have been stalwarts for this Bills defense, have lost a bit of a step this year. I think putting CeeDee Lamb like in the slot and having him be that seam defender for these balls with Dak, along with Jake Ferguson, stress that interior of the Bills defense and then force the Bills defense to deal with CeeDee Lamb either with a specific player or bracketed coverages or rolling things his way and going with, split field looks or half field stuff to try and, I don't know, do you throw more of a cloud corner at him to try and disrupt him and have somebody also over the top? Like, how do they play CeeDee Lamb? Because he's a legitimate stud in the league and he's going to demand gravity that comes his way.
And you kind of hit on the point, my final point going here, but we'll get to that, even my point later. But the thing that stands out the most about CeeDee Lamb is the body control.
Oh, good point.
And that's just the way that he moves. I think all the time, I don't remember who the quote is from. I can't believe I'm not attributing this quote incorrectly, but the best in the world at what they do are able to make the difficult things look easy. CeeDee Lamb makes route running and separation look easy. He just glides on the field. Like, there's the double move into the sail route that he ran on the Eagles on Sunday.
Oh, against Bradbury, right? Where he just left him in the dust?
Just completely fooled him. There was one in the slot, I think, against it was either against Keely Ringo or one of the other nickel defenders for the Eagles.
Oh, maybe Roby.
It was Roby, where he faked to the inside and then went back out. I was like, man, like what do you do? And one thing that Dallas has done so well since the 49ers game is they've moved him around. They've kind of matchup hunted for him, and it's not just like, oh, we're going to line him up out here and he's going to be better than you. Like, he can do that, but you want to create a wider margin for error for your best players because that's going to help them out in the long run. So I love the body control and what he can do also after the catch. I think that's kind of an underrated part of his game, but he's really good after the catch. So I wonder if this is going to be kind of a Taron Johnson game. Like, are they just going to lock him when he's in the slot? Is this a lock him on and forget about it? Or is this going to be we're going to try and bracket him on the inside whenever he's there. We're going to cloud to the outside. If he goes in motion, we're going to have to bracket. Or if he moves and one of the things the Cowboys do is they'll motion him into a bunch or a stack. Is this, okay, Taron, you got 88 and we're locking you on to him. You lock that coverage and then we'll play we'll top hat the coverage, or the outside corner will take the receiver if he goes outside, and the safety will take the receiver if he goes inside. Like, is this going to be a Taron Johnson? You have to be the most valuable defender on the field, which he has been and he is for the Bills defense. But this is really the I wrote a little bit in grad school about why the three safety defense has kind of changed the NFL and how the nickel defenders are getting bigger. And one of the people I highlighted in that story was Taron Johnson. This has to be the Taron Johnson game. Like, this is the reason why he is the most valuable defender on the field. And this is going to be the, we might lock him on and say, hey, we're going to lock you on to 88 and then worry about everybody else.
And then if he's got to play with regularity against CeeDee Lamb in the slot and then also maintain run fit responsibility, like that's tough. But then also if he's playing man, he's locking him up that he's not necessarily going to be in that run fit. We know the Cowboys can run the ball and like to run the ball. So how does that start to fit? Like he's another similar to what Parsons is on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like CeeDee Lamb is a starting point for all these different avenues and offshoots because how you choose to defend CeeDee Lamb, like I think that's where the conversation has to start. Granted, Dak is the straw that stirs the drink when it comes to this Cowboys offense, but you have to start with, okay, how are we covering CeeDee Lamb? What are we doing with CeeDee Lamb? Because then everything, the rest of your coverages, your run fits, all of it stems from that one player. And that's the gravity that he has. And I love the body control point that you mentioned. Like everything just seems so smooth. And he just seems like so swagged out. Like his cleats are dope and he's got the chains and everything just fits perfectly. Like he's got a dope receiver aesthetic. Like, and then he just crushes it like with how he moves and how he operates. Like, and again, he's helped my fantasy team significantly this year with what he does. But like, I also think like people don't realize like how nuts that is. 3 straight games of 10 catches and over 150 yards, including one where he had 11 catches for 191. Like, and he can do it in so many ways. Like he can get vertical, he can work in the underneath, he can work in the intermediate, he can beat man, he can beat zone. Like, oof, like and I don't think he gets talked about enough in that conversation. And I don't know if it's because he does work a lot in the slot. Like, granted, he can live in both, but he is more slot. Like I mentioned, 58.5% in the slot versus 40.5% out wide. And I don't know if that's part of the reason, but I really feel like I don't think he's in the same tier as like the Chases and the Jeffersons, but he's close in that second tier or maybe starting to creep up into the bottom of that first tier. I really don't think he gets talked about as being a good receiver, but he's really one of the elite like dudes at that position in the league. And I don't think he gets talked about it like enough.
I think he doesn't get talked about like that enough because kind of like what you said, he kind of operates in between slot and out wide, but I think it's something about the movement where it just looks so like, I'm not going to say it's boring because I don't think it's boring, but he doesn't get talked about that much because it just looks so easy out there.
Like nonchalant.
Like it's just a nonchalant, like, oh, okay, I'm going to run this sail route for 15 yards and be wide open. Like, okay, cool. We're going to run this stop route, get 4 yards of separation, and we're going to just continue with the rest of our game. Do the little point that he does for the first.
I was gonna say the little,
it's one of the coolest celebrations in the league. Just one of the most consistent. Like he's so good at doing it after every first down.
Yeah, every single time.
Like, it does not matter the situation. Doesn't matter what if they're up or down in the game. Just go ahead.
And he's second, and like I said, he's second in first down, so he does it all the time. Like you, almost every catch you see him doing it after. I'm like, oh, it must be a first down.
Get your shots up, kid. That's exactly what it is. Hey, you get it, you celebrate. You got it, man. But it's gonna be so interesting to see how they defend him.
It really starts like, and if I'm Dallas again, like I'm putting him in the slot, like I am forcing Taron Johnson to be occupied by him, or I am stressing those linebackers and the spine of the defense from a coverage standpoint. And then I'm starting to see, okay, cool. Then can I isolate Brandon Cooks and use his speed outside or see what I can do and like where else we can get to? But I'm throwing him on the inside. Again, I love everything that he can do, and I'm probably throwing him on the outside a bit, but I'm starting him in that slot, using him as that power slot piece to also help in the run game. But just I'm bringing that gravity on the interior and stressing kind of a weaker or vulnerable point for this Bills defense, which has been on that spine. Again, another awesome piece that stems from a player aspect. All right. Bring it home in the home stretch. Your third point, which I know is potentially related to this a little bit, and you're saving it. What do you got for your last matchup point for Bills Cowboys?
My third point is related to CeeDee Lamb, but how are the Bills going to defend CeeDee Lamb in motion? So CeeDee Lamb in motion this year has a 0.68 EPA per target. That's pretty good. Pretty good if you ask
Almost
me.
A full point.
I believe it's a 66.7% positive play rate according to Sports Info Solutions. That's insane. That's insane, you know.
Also pretty good.
That's also pretty good. You know, that's something that, again, this Cowboys offense has changed so much from the 49ers game. And really, I kind of think it was Mike McCarthy going, hey, we can put our best player into motion. That's crazy. Like he saw Kyle Shanahan doing all this wild stuff with CMC and Deebo Samuel. Like, I could do that. Why don't I do that? And the offense is just taken off. So I just wonder, how are they going to defend CeeDee Lamb in those motions? Because what the Cowboys do, they're so intentional with this motion. And it's not just creating the stacks and the bunches schematically. It is getting CeeDee Lamb a free release. So it's getting him a free release, a two-way go. Like you said, like he has been a slot receiver. He's been outside slot, like operated in between both for most of his career, but he kind of gets thought of as a slot receiver because of early his career with Amari Cooper. He was kind of that slot guy. But what's the best thing to do for your alpha receiver? Get him into a stack where he doesn't have to deal with somebody hitting him at the line of scrimmage. Let him run at you. You know, it's kind of like, I think Brandon Thorne made this comparison early on this year where the receiver DB battle is a lot like offensive line, defensive line.
Bro, I got super excited. When I first started following him, that conversation is what he ended up following me back after. And he said that point, he was like, oh yeah, like the fight, the hand fighting in the battle between offensive line and defensive line mimics and mirrors defensive backs and wide receivers. And we went on like a whole thread conversation about it. Yeah. That's awesome. Sorry, continue. I got super excited.
It's just flipped because you think about what receivers do with the footwork and the hand coordination. It looks exactly like a defensive lineman. I made a comparison when he first made that thread. I was like, oh, this goes into my perfect thought that Justin Jefferson and Von Miller move the same way.
Nice.
They've kind of moved in similar ways. CeeDee Lamb kind of moves in that kind of gliding, graceful way where he's kind of got like figure skater ankles where you can he can bend and turn.
That flexion.
So it's so easy, just the hip and ankle flexibility. And now you're giving him a free release to run at your safety or nickel corner to kind of give him another two-way go. It's that intentional motion that's going to be very interesting to see how the Bills cover it. Do they protect their linebackers by having the safety over top and be like, okay, if this guy tries to run it over, we're going to have the backside safety poach or sit there like, okay, here comes 88. If he comes over this way, you got him. If he doesn't, I got him going back this way. Is it going to be, hey, if he goes into motion, it's like a stack. It's Taron Johnson's like, okay, move. I got him. It's like when you're watching basketball and you try to go like a two-man pick and roll game, and the best defender's like, no, move, get out the way. Just go over the pick. I'm here. Like I'm forcing you to. If you want to get your shot off, you got to do it in my face.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is going to be you got to get in his face, or is this going to be hey, if he runs this way out of motion, we got to have something. We got to have something for if he's in the slot and when he goes into motion, because they're going to be motioning him inside. They're going to be motioning him into a stack and to get a free release.
Yeah, and you can't let him. And even if he's just static in the slot, like he's gonna have that two-way go. It's a problem. If you add the motion piece into it and the potential leverage that it creates, then you start to get into a whole other world of hurt against this Cowboys offense. I looked up, the motion pieces on SIS, and so amongst all players with at least 10 targets, he's sitting there at fourth at 0.68 EPA per target. Adam Thielen, granted he only has 10. Adam Thielen's EPA is 0.87. In motion, like the Adam Thielen resurgence and renaissance in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Every week there is some stat that I see Adam Thielen related that blows my mind. And then like you watch Panthers games, if anybody's watching Panthers games because they're ugly, and he's just like left and right getting open and making catches. Like it's wild. 0.87 for Adam Thielen. Like that's crazy.
It's like Sean Livingston with the Warriors. He's the old man at the Y getting buckets. The bank shot jumper. He's not gonna play a lot of defense. Like he's only gonna play one half of the court. But hey, you get him on that block, he's hitting the fadeaway jumper every time. So it's really fun watching him. But yeah, you think about those guys that go in motion. You think about what they do, like the Tyler Boyds, George Kittles, Travis Kelce. Again, that's another like. Travis Kelce going into motion, it's going to have to be kind of like that because he is such a focal, like he is a gravity he has gravitational pull when he goes into motion. It's very much like Travis Kelce because you have to know what he's going to do and where he's going to be in that motion. You're not going to always be able to sit there at the line of scrimmage and jam him. So you got to have a plan for, okay, this guy's going into motion. Here he comes. Like, this is going to have to be a 2-man game, or, hey, I got him. Just move.
And it's funny too, like, so CeeDee Lamb like presents even more of a problem with motion because he's CeeDee Lamb. But also teams, going back to the Bills game against the Packers last year, have really, I don't want to say struggled, but they've been exposed and made vulnerable at times by just simple pre-snap motion from offenses. And because they usually do the same thing every time. Like if you motion from left to right, they're going to bump accordingly. Exactly. And it's always a bump at the second level. Like, you know what you're going to get. And if you time that snap right, you can out leverage them to that front side. Or if you tie it into the run game, you can beat them backside on the weak side because they bumped over to the front to match that motion that's happened. And teams have manipulated them time and time again with these motions. Philadelphia did it a bit this year, especially in that OT play. Like, but going back to last year, like, the Jets even did it because, LaFleur, coming from a LaFleur tree, like that the Packers kind of put that out there, and the Bills adjusted really well to Miami's motion game earlier this year, but you saw teams use motion to out leverage or out gap the Bills defense. Again, out leverage them in the pass game or out use them to like mess up their gap scheme and gap integrity against the run. Like, it can be such a devastating thing when it's anybody motioning based on how the Bills' rules are defensively for adjusting to that motion. But then you add on top of it that it's CeeDee Lamb, like, you kind of have to bump because you have to respect that unless you're just going with straight man. And then if you're going with straight man, then it's more easily discernible for Dak and he can recognize what's going on. And that's why you have to add more of like, okay, like he might be locked in man, but we're not in man. We're in, we're man to that side and we're cover 2 to this other side, like trying to throw these split field coverages like they did to Kansas City last year in that week 5 game where they busted out everything in that game. They were throwing half field coverages. They were busting out the odd mirror front from Georgia and what they were doing, just like all these pieces. But you really have to, given how efficient this offense is, and then again, the gravity that CeeDee Lamb has.
Yeah, and this has to be a game where you got to make any of the other receivers beat you. Like, I'm cool with this being a Michael Gallup game.
I was literally going to say that. You got to make it a Michael Gallup game.
If you want it to be a Brandon Cooks game, sure. Like,
why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not? If this is a Jake Ferguson game, okay, I'm cool with Jake Ferguson being the guy that ended up beating us. But if you're going to let CeeDee Lamb kind of dictate, again, it ties back into if you're going to let CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys dictate the flow of this offense using motion. And again, you made a great point about motion to run because of how the Bills play and they bump everybody. This is going to be another one where they motion CeeDee, bump Taron Johnson out the run fit, and they run where he wasn't? Or is this going to be we're going to motion, we're going to bump, and we're going to get CeeDee Lamb on a linebacker? Is this going to have to be a chess match kind of game? I think there's going to be we're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at you. You might think we're going to be in man, but maybe just we're going to lock CeeDee and we're going to play zone everywhere else. This is going to have to be a game where, and you brought up a great point about the Dolphins. And I think the Dolphins motion is kind of different. I actually have a story coming out about this tomorrow. The Dolphins motion is different because they are more vertical displacement. They want to motion to get you down the field with threat of speed and then dagger and run the dig with Tyreek Hill right behind you.
Yeah, they want to pull that coverage and drain the zone and then whoop.
They want you to think, oh my gosh, Jalen Waddle's running at me. He runs like a 4 flat, so we're flying out the roof to try and cover that. And then Tyreek Hill, who runs a 3 flat, just runs right behind them. Where I think the Cowboys' motion is different is they want to dictate angles and leverage. It's more, okay, we might not have the same burners as they do, but we're going to motion into a stack or into a bunch and force you to be like, okay, how are we going to play this? You're going to have to dictate. You're going to have to show the coverage as you're getting into it. So that motion at the snap, as soon as CeeDee gets into that stack, Dak's going to see, oh, you're bumping it inside. We have outside leverage. That's kind of you can run the option route. It's what made Cooper Kupp and the Rams just so amazing on offense is they use that motion they're dictating the leverage and the angles. Football, especially on offense, is geometry. It is just finding the angles, finding different ways to increase the margins where everybody's just as good as an athlete. So now you have to dictate using angles and using math to kind of win at the NFL level. And the Cowboys do that so perfectly because they're a timing and rhythm-based offense. If they could dictate those angles and that leverage, you have no chance of winning.
No, it's so stressful, and it's a great point. Like it that's where that chess match comes in, because then it's like, okay, like I know that you know what we know, and vice versa. And so, how can you kind of spin that on its head? Like, can you make them think like, oh, okay, here comes man coverage, and nope, it's something else? Like, what can you do on the fly from an adjustment standpoint? Which is why Sean McDermott's going to be so important in this game. Like, how able is he to disguise coverage, to disguise what they're doing on the back end? Because Dak is so good at discerning those pieces just on his own. Mike McCarthy is very adept at giving him resources to help him discern what's going on from a coverage standpoint. And then on top of it, you got this precision-based offense with these pieces that execute at this high level, like CeeDee Lamb. Like it can put you in a blender, like mentally. Whereas I love that comparison with the Dolphins offense. It's so, not that it's not mentally taxing, because it is, but so much of it is just like speed and that vertical displacement, where this Dallas offense is more of like a mental chess piece and chess match, and that taxing element from a horizontal piece, again, tied to that West Coast element, which is timing and angles and geometry. Like, oh man, very well said. I'm so excited for this game. Like, I'm very nervous because I like the Bills, obviously, but just as a football fan, man, this one's going to be good. All right, my last one. This one is more schematic, not individual player based. Bills offense versus the Cowboys when they're in cover one. Real simple. The staple of this Cowboys defense right now, they have 136 cover one snaps. That is the most in the league, and 34.5% of their pass defense snaps on the year when playing cover one. They're third in EPA per play. They're first in total EPA, and they have the 12th lowest quarterback rating against. Of those 136 cover one snaps, 45 of them have come on third down, which is tied for the third most in the league, and is also 33.1% of their overall cover one snaps. But they're kind of middling on third down when in cover one. 14th in EPA per play, 14th in EPA, and the 15th lowest rating against. How does that fit in against the Bills? Well, I'll tell you. Josh Allen, fifth most cover one snaps against on the year. He is fourth in EPA. Seventh in positive play percentage. And this is out of 40 qualifying quarterbacks. Fourth in EPA, seventh in positive play percentage, eighth in rating, first in on-target percentage, second in catchable percentage, eighth in yards, third in touchdowns. But what's also very interesting, so you see those Josh Allen success numbers, and I think some people might think, oh, well, Stephon Diggs is his dude. Diggs must be cooking against cover one this year. And that is false. Out of 55 qualifying players, not just receivers, out of 55 qualifying players, Stephon Diggs 36th in EPA per target against cover one, 34th in total EPA, 34th in positive play percentage, 34th in yards per route run, and 33rd in yards per catch. How does this Bills offense hum or continue to hum against cover one? Who wins that battle? It's weird to say cover one because it's the brand, but like, and it's also a coverage. I've never said it this much in a show. And so that's like a huge piece. Like, we know the Cowboys want to live in this single high world. And then when they're running cover one, usually Hooker's going to be that post safety. They're using Donovan Wilson in creative ways, but he's usually going to be that robber or that rat. They'll line him up on the line and have him be the low hole player. They'll do so many fun things with him. He had that nice strip on Jalen Hurts against Philadelphia. Like, he's just so good in and around the line of scrimmage. And again, if they're showing him usually in a too high shell pre-snap, he's coming down in some way as that robber. So kind of IDing that, how do they function against this coverage? And then what does Dallas do within that from a takeaway standpoint? Dallas is tied for 7th in takeaways with 21, but they're only 3 off the lead, which is who is the Denver Broncos at 24. And they're tied for 4th in interceptions with 13. Granted, like all of them have come from Deron Bland, and they've all been taken back for touchdowns. Do they turn Josh Allen over? Can they start him off negatively and get him into that negative, snowball routine and snowball effect like we talked about, both previous times that we were on the show? Like, I think that's the bigger picture, but baked within that is that niche piece of this is the Cowboys' go-to formation defensively, or coverage scheme, I should say. They have the horses for it. They have the defensive coordinator for it. They execute it at a high level. They still disguise it a bit, but they really don't have to because of how well they play it. And then also paired with what they have up front, they can play man coverage and disrupt your timing and get in your kitchen because they trust that Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence or Dante Fowler or somebody's going to win up front quickly for them.
So I think this is another one that kind of ties into the points we made earlier with cover one. Is this is kind of going to be a Josh Allen scramble game, on third
That's
down.
why I said earlier, I was like, it kind of ties in, but I wanted to keep it.
Yeah, on third downs this year, Josh Allen is 13th among qualifying quarterbacks with, of course, 5 scrambles on third down and EPA per attempt with 0.57. Now you kind of think, 13th, but he leads the NFL in rushing and scrambles on third down. That's something like he is built in to be like, okay, if you're gonna play man, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
This got to be a game where if you don't have it, just go, because the Cowboys. I think what you brought up is a very good point about how much cover one they play is because they have the personnel to play all that cover one. They flood the field with DBs.
Yeah,
everybody is like 200.
They can match up with anybody and do anything.
Everybody's like 190 to 205 pounds. So cool. If none of those guys are open, just take your 240-pound ostrich and run. Just go. Force them to tackle. And you brought up some really good points with Stephon Diggs and the success rate against cover one. Is this gonna have to be a Gabe Davis game? Is this gonna be a Gabe Davis or a Kincaid game? I don't know, because I've said it before on Twitter. Gabe Davis is football J.R. Smith. Sometimes he's going to get 30 points, going to make like 10 threes, contested jumpers, all working, or he's going to go 0 for 15, and it's just going to look really bad. Is this going to be a Kincaid game? You might have the matchup versatility because you got the bigger guy. Is this going to be a James Cook out of the backfield? I love the touchdown to James Cook against the Chiefs, where they got him out the backfield vertically. I think and Shaq says it all the time on TNT, is that you need the others to step up in this game. You need somebody outside of Stephon Diggs to create some separation, to win. You need some winners outside of Stephon Diggs, because best believe they're going to know who this ball is going to, and they're probably going to put Gilmore on Stephon Diggs. And we know big game Gilmore is nobody to be messed with. I mean, he took that A.J. Brown matchup personally. So that's going to be something that's going to be watch out for. Is this going to have to be a Gabe Davis? Is it going to be Dalton Kincaid trying to win those matchups? Or is this going to be more of a Josh Allen? If I don't see it, I'm going to run. I think I would lean more on the go Josh Allen berserker mode run, because, again, force them to tackle. It's going to be cold. Tackling in the cold sucks.
Yeah.
That hurts. And I think we turned it into a meme because, of course, but Marshawn Lynch saying run through an MF or face over, that hurts, especially in the cold.
That sucks.
No, that's not fun, getting hit in the face. Everybody, it's like Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Look, punch him in the mouth. Let Josh out. Get Josh Allen some runs early in the game. Just see how it responds. It's like throwing a jab out there. Hey, we got this in the book. How do they respond? Because if they don't respond well and you get into a passing down, just take off. I think there's going to be a big Josh Allen scramble to keep drives alive game.
It's funny that you mentioned, does this have to be a Gabe Davis game or a Dalton Kincaid game? Of those qualifying wide receivers, or targets in general, I should say, pass catchers in general, against cover one, Gabe Davis is 10th in EPA per target at 0.56. Again, Stephon Diggs is, going back to my notes here, 36th at 0.08. So Gabe Davis is almost a full half a point better than Stephon Diggs against cover one. You want to know what's also crazy? You know who amongst qualifying receiver or pass catchers? You know who's number one in EPA per target against cover one?
Who is it?
CeeDee Lamb.
Oh,
You know what his EPA per target is?
what is it?
0.97.
Oh my God!
Like holy hell!
Like,
and
sure, man.
0.97 right against cover one on 38 targets.
Like
That's a lot.
It's absurd. Like
That's
what?
nuts to be
What
that
do you
high,
even do,
bro. Like right, like what do you like? That's nuts. Like to be at almost a full point per target on 38 targets. It's not like, oh, well, he's only got like 13 targets. That would still be cool. But no, that's a decent amount of volume. Again, he's got on the year, he's got 129 targets. So 38 of that, which is a decent chunk, has come against cover one, and he's averaging 0.97 EPA per target.
like,
what do you do?
If you think about it like this, the next best person in that metric is DJ Moore at 0.95.
Mm-hmm.
He has 19 targets.
Exactly.
It is like half of what the volume CeeDee Lamb is getting. So I want to know with this Bills team, is this, and this kind of goes into the cover one thing. And of course, like they want you to go to the guy that has 5 pick sixes. Is this going to be a goofy Bills game? Is this going to be a turnover Bills game? Like you can't afford to turn the ball over against this team because they'll score on every drive because they just did it last week. So if you want to go, like, it's so funny and so interesting how the Bills kind of toe that line between chaos and like constraint, because that's kind of a reflection of their quarterback playing on that line of chaos and constraint. So I wonder if the Bills kind of throw caution to the wind and say, screw it. Let's go full chaos mode. You want to bring this game into the chaos? We can do that. Like you won't like it when we go into chaos mode because nobody knows what's about to happen right here.
No, I was gonna say not even the Bills. We don't know.
We don't know.
We're gonna see what happens.
We're gonna go full Chaozu. Like if you want to Chaozu this game, we'll go Chaozu. You don't want to do this. The Cowboys offense and the Bills, like the way the Bills want to play, is so much of that Tiger Woods, John Daly meme, where it's like the Cowboys are so efficient, they play so well knit. And Josh Allen is throwing the ball 25 yards back across his body over the middle of the field. Like, hey, it works. Like you kind of can't like do anything about it. So is this going to be a Cowboys game where they play into that chaos agent that the Bills are, or do they want to kind of constrain that and force them to play within the confines of reality? Because we've seen the Bills and Josh Allen break reality.
Yeah.
With chaos. And I don't think the Cowboys want that. I don't think the Cowboys want to play a chaos game.
Well, it's just super risk reward. It's that yin and yang of Josh Allen. Like, do you you invite the chaos from him and he can break you in an instant, or he might turn the ball over 3 times in 3 drives. And it's like, which one do you get? And I love that juxtaposition of him and Dak, because like Dak is just this buttoned up and precise like quarterback with everything, and then Josh Allen is like he's auditioning for like the And One mixtape tour on like every play, just like, well, what are you like? Why is he doing that? And it's like, oh, because he can. Like it just does he like, and that's the stuff that really like we talked about Micah Parsons like going through dudes and how that takes your soul. Like those Josh Allen unicorn plays really kill you as a defense because you've got him like hemmed in and bottled up, and then he just makes some throw where you're just like, dude, like, and that sucks. Like you can do everything right, and then he beats you, and you're just like, oh. Or he makes some stupid bonehead throw, and you pick him off. You're like, man, I can't believe he tried that throw. And it's just like, which one do you get, and how much of it do you get? But again, like, and that's why this team, with the injuries to Matt Milano, injuries to Daquan Jones and Trey White, and everything that's happened on the defensive side of the ball, why this Bills team has been so unpredictable this year. Because even with Ken Dorsey, like this team was going to go always would go as far as Josh Allen took them. But they had such a good defense that when healthy, they are up there in the conversation with, you know, the Eagles defense and the Niners defense and the Chiefs defense, like the groups that we've seen like dominate this year, and the Ravens to a degree, like maybe a tier below. But when you pair that defense with what they had on offense, it was a true complete football team. And that defense could mitigate that variance from Josh Allen. But when the defense got banged up and this became more of a pure offensive team, that's where you saw that unpredictability, because you're living and dying with Josh Allen on every single drive. And sometimes he gives you life and sometimes he kills you. And that's for the Bills or for the opponent. And you never know which it's going to be. But usually, you know, the risk versus reward, usually he gives you more reward, but sometimes it's risk and it's pain over and over for the Bills, or it's pain for the defense. You like never know. It's Forrest Gump and life is a box of chocolates. Like you don't know what you're going to get and it's chaos.
So the funniest thing is FTN Fantasy tracks DVOA now, air shots, one of the greatest like football stat sites ever. They have a stat called variance. And if, of course, one is the most consistent, like they don't have a lot of variance or total like upheaval and like super positive plays or super negative plays. Variance measures the statistical variance of each weekly DVOA performance. So 1, most consistent. 32 is least consistent. Do you want to know where the Bills are?
You know what's funny is I have the page up, but I didn't want to spoil it because I didn't click and look. They have to be high variance.
They are 30th. they are one of the most high variance teams in the NFL. The only 2 teams below them are the Arizona Cardinals and the Cincinnati Bengals. And you know, that's what they want. They want you to be like, oh, we're gonna play this chaos game with them. Let's play these cards. You know, it's like
Jesus. Oh yeah, no, I'm looking at it now. 19.5%.
They are the Jekyll and Hyde team this year. We're like, hey, sometimes it's gonna look really, really good, but sometimes it's just like, man, what are you doing?
Yep.
But it's kind of the way you want to live. And against a team like the Cowboys, who everything is so buttoned up, like I said, they want to be on schedule. Just you could take them off schedule with that variance. It's kind of so I'm sure you've watched Naruto, the Drunken Fist, Rock Lee. You can't study the Drunken Fist. Like you gotta try and fight it. You gotta try and fight it as it happens. But you don't know what moves are gonna happen. You don't know what you're gonna see flying at you. You don't know what's gonna happen with this Bills team. So I think how the Bills kind of toe the line between constraint and chaos in this game is going to be a very interesting point as this game develops, because we could be getting into a point where this game is close, or we're going into the game knowing like this is a big game. We're going to need Josh Allen to go full supernova mode. And again, we've talked about it before, like, so that's great. We're giving him the keys to the car because that's what you want. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You give that guy the keys to the car. Sometimes that car is going to end up in a ditch, but like sometimes it's going to go cruising down the highway. We don't know which game is going to be on Sunday, but you kind of got to trust him with it. You got to trust Josh Allen, trust this Bills offense to be like, okay, we know what the weaknesses are up front with how light they are. This might be a Josh Allen kind of battering ram type of game. I'm kind of reminded of the game against Tampa a couple years back. Where in the second half, Josh Allen went full, like, we're breaking out the run game, the QB power, QB pin.
Oh, and that ties back to your point earlier, where like they were running RPOs, and it was like, forget about the PO, just run it.
Like this might have to be one of those games.
Yep. Pin and pull, QB bash. Like, yeah, that's where they're hitting it. And that's also part of the reason why I wanted the Bills to have a ground game, because we saw earlier in the year, like when the Bills would struggle, they were trying to box in Josh Allen because you want him to play with restraint. But also when you do that, you limit some of what makes him great with that variance play, like which brings positives with it. And it's such a hard balancing act to allow him to play with that variance while also trying to make him play efficiently and regulate him, which is why I wanted the ground games. I felt like a good run game, whether it was with Josh Allen's legs or the running back ground game, was such a natural variance mitigator, because it was like, we don't have to worry about him doing anything crazy. Let's just have him hand the ball off. Oh, we're running like 6-7 yards of pop. Cool. Let's just keep running it. We don't have to even put it in his hands. Let's give him a rest. And then, oh, cool, the running game's working. Let's make it easy. Just an RPO. Read that linebacker. If he comes, hit the glance. If not, hand it off. Oh, it's working. Let's just keep working it. Like, that was that natural variance mitigator. But if you force it into his hands further, like, that's where you're going to get it. He might go 350 total yards and 4 total touchdowns, or he might go 300 total yards and 4 turnovers. Like, and that's the risk that you run. And if Dallas can force them into that way, create some sort of turnover ability, man, like, it just, and especially depending on how it starts off, like, if you get Josh Allen off on that wrong foot, it gets in his head. And like we talked about before, like, he comes back the next play and he's like, okay, I got to make up for that interception all in this one play right now. And he might throw another one. And then instead of just being like, all right, let me reset, calm down, let's get after it, he's like, no, now I got to make up for 2 interceptions on the next play. And it's like, no. And he cheese brains it, like you said the last time. And like, you just keep going and going and going. And against a team that takes the ball away well and that plays aggressively with their cover one, they are trying to disrupt. They're going to get physical. They're going to tackle you in the open field. Like, they're going to come downhill and play aggressive against you from a coverage standpoint, but also from a front standpoint. If you allow them to get into that game strip and get comfortable, we talked so much in this episode about the comfortability for the Cowboys offense, but it's the same with that defense. If you allow them to get into a world where it's just like, oh, cool, let's just sit in cover 1 and rush 4 and let Parsons do his thing and Lawrence do his thing, that also obviously works to the Cowboys' favor, but it also works even more in their favor because it puts the Bills in a situation where it brings more of that negative of Josh Allen out, and that chaos builds to a point where he can't control it, and then it becomes too much variance, and you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think the game flow is going to be huge in this game. I don't know what exactly the weather is going to be on Sunday. If this is going to lean more into a cold, like, if this is going to be an NFL Films type of football game.
Oh, I'd love that.
Where it's like, it's a December, like, real cold football game where you're going to have to grind it out. I wonder if the Bills kind of just go, all right, let's just run it. We're gonna use the advantages we have with our kaiju quarterback and just build in the run game. Just turn the RPOs and the runs, take those read options, just implement all of them. And it's not saying that because Josh Allen can't throw in the cold. Like, that's very much not true, but you're playing a team that wants you to throw the ball on them. They want you to get into 2nd and long and 3rd and long. Don't give them the chance. Just hit them in the mouth. Like, it's a very simple thing. Like, it sounds very like simple football brain. Like, oh, just hit them. Like, no, hit them. Like, the defense is going to slow down. Like, you're going to think about that. Like, dang, I just got hit hard. I don't want to do that again.
And if you do that repeatedly throughout the game, each one of those hits, like, takes a toll, and it wears on you and wears on you and wears on you. And then you get a different performance late in the 3rd quarter into the 4th quarter.
Yeah, this is going to have to be a game where this Cowboys team is in such a rhythm on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
You have to disrupt their rhythm. And what better disruptor, like, in general, than Josh Allen? He is the disruptor of anything normal on a football field. Like, he just causes chaos, whether it be because he is the chaos or whether he's playing constrained. But this is going to be such an interesting game to watch, like, through the game tape as it's going live, to see kind of to feel that emotion or see how the mood and the game swings with all the variables that are happening in this game.
Yeah. And it's even like the last point, like, I want to make with that, like, even on the defensive side of the ball for the Bills, it's variance based. Like, they get gouged for, like, on the ground, like, is a good example, like, yards per attempt, and they miss tackles, and they have broken tackles, and, like, they're league leaders in terms of yards after contact per attempt, like, all these poor things. they're also great at creating negative plays, and they're also great at like stuff percentage and hit at the line percentage. Like everything is variance based. Like if you run the ball against the Bills, it's either going to be like 2nd and 12 or it's going to be 2nd and 3 because they're just coming after you. They're one gap penetrating coming forward. And that's what you get with like Josh Allen, like in the Bills offense. They're either putting up like 39 and 40 and it's beautiful, or they're slugging their way to like an inefficient 20 that looked ugly and hard. And that's what it is. It's usually one or the other. There's no like, oh, all right, 28 points and we got there. No, it's either like they boat raced somebody or they struggled and they got caught in a slog. And it's such a good, like you said, a good juxtaposition in this game because the Bills are this variance team that home run or strikeout. Like that's what we're doing. And the Cowboys are like, you know what? No, we're going to hit a couple singles and hit a double here and there. We're going to sacrifice this guy over to third, and then we'll bring him in after that. And then maybe we'll try to hit a home run later, but we're probably still going to play it safe. We're going to play good defense. We're going to pitch and paint the black and hit the corners. And the Bills are like, nah, bro, we're throwing 102 every single time. Maybe we'll throw a curveball, and then we're trying to mash at the plate left and right. And it's such a good juxtaposition of who the two quarterbacks are, who the teams are defensively, offensively. Like as a football fan, this is going to be a really fun game, like schematically. And then all the good players you have on both sides of the ball, like, man, I'm juiced up for it. And also extremely paranoid and nervous and ready. Like I'm about to throw up. Like, but yeah, just the football side, the more I've done like the podcasting stuff, the fan in me kind of gets quelled a little bit by just the overall football fan. I'm just so excited for this game. Like, and this is one I kind of had marked earlier in the year. And a lot of people were like, no, the Cowboys are going to be shitty. The Cowboys are going to be shitty. And I was like, oh, okay. And when they lost to Arizona, which knocked me out of my survivor pool, and then also faltered against San Francisco, I was like, oh, okay. But like you said, since San Fran, they've really, really turned it around in terms of who they are. And they come into Buffalo hot. And we're going to see what we can get. JP, this has been tremendous. You and I went super long, and I didn't even like realize it. Like I literally looked up at the clock like 10 minutes ago and I was like, hour and 25. Like, whoa. So I hope I didn't keep you long, but this was awesome as hell. Like every time sitting down and talking ball with you and X's and O's and stats and metrics and all that stuff, like you've in a short time become one of like my favorite guests. So I appreciate you taking the time. I know it was a bit last minute. Like I'm always horrible with like setting things up. So I appreciate you taking the time, joining me, going along with me here. You crushed it. The floor is yours. Plug whatever you got. I appreciate the hell out of you.
No, this was awesome. Thanks for having me. I always love coming on because I know I can bring in references to anime, to pro wrestling, and just talk about ball all the time. Of course, like you said at the beginning of the show, I am a writer for SB Nation covering the NFL, college football, NFL draft, basically wherever football is being played. I'm probably going to be tweeting about it, going to be on threads talking about it. I have a pretty cool piece coming out tomorrow. I kind of hinted at it earlier, just talking about kind of the general trend I've seen in the NFL when it comes to motion and how some of the top teams that use motion at the snap used in different ways. So that's going to be a pretty cool story. I was really excited working on it, and I was like, man, this looks really cool. Of course, Establish the Fun every Friday. It's my column. I write about anything that I find fun in football, whether it be players, scheme, games, just things that I think are really cool in football, whether it be, I could be writing about XFL, UFL, maybe USFL, they merge a little bit. Maybe I'll write about Canadian Football League. If somebody drops the all 22 for Canadian football, I will find it. I'll find it there. But just follow me on social media at Acosta32_JP, JP Acosta32 on threads. But again, this is awesome. I always enjoy coming on because I know we're going to talk so long and we're going to have so much fun.
Bro, I had a blast. You crushed it. I'm going to power on and break down some Joe Brady game tape and some stuff from this game against the Chiefs. But enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. Again, you crushed it as always. I appreciate the hell out of you. Thanks for taking the time. And yeah, Godspeed.
All right. See you
later. Man, one of my favorite guests every time. Awesome, dude. Let's throw up the overlay there. Want to grab this comment coming from Carl. Carl, thank you for being here and thank you for the super chat. Carl says, I realize you are both stat geeks, but how much can you rely on stats when the Bills look totally different after the swap from Dorsey to Brady? So one, I do use a lot of stats and advanced metrics, but I'm a film guy first and foremost, both here on the show and in the film room with Eric. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Nice plug. I do think there are different wrinkles and elements to this Bills offense under Joe Brady. I'm going to pull up some of them right now as we get into the tape. I don't think the Bills look totally different after the swap from Dorsey to Brady. Again, there are different elements and wrinkles like the motion, the four strong formations. Some of the option route pieces are still present. Dorsey is using different window dressings and scheming things a bit differently for sure. Like it's not the same offense completely, but I don't think it looks totally different. I don't think you're looking at some brand new offense. And I don't think that's a knock against Brady. I think it's just the time at where you are. Like you're not going to get this far in the season, get a new offensive coordinator, uninstall the old offense, and then install a new one. Like that's just not going to happen. So Brady has to dance with a lot of what, Ken Dorsey brought to the dance already, but he's just dressing it up a little bit again with some of the motion pieces, some of the four strong concepts, like what he's doing to dress concepts up and or lock some more things in place is different than what Dorsey is doing. But I don't think the offense looks totally different. There are differences, yes, but totally different is too strong a verbiage for me. But I recognize the notion and thought, especially from a points perspective and sometimes ease of operation. You look at the Bills offense and see what they did against the Jets and see what they did against the Eagles. And it's like, man, like this offense seems brand new. They're just hitting on things a little different. Also, some of it is also tied to, and not to give like Dorsey a pass or knock Brady at all, some of it is just tied to Josh Allen's playing better. Like Josh Allen has gone back to making Josh Allen plays, whether or not that can be tied to Joe Brady and by how much. That's open for debate, but a lot of it goes on to that piece. But thank you, Carl, for the super chat. And yeah, like you said, for sure it's the same playbook, but it's being called differently. Yeah, I think the sequencing is different. The players that he's utilizing. So for me, schematically, I still think it's similar, but exactly your point. There's a different rhythm and sequencing to what Joe Brady is doing. Again, even some of the player usage, right? Like Ty Johnson was a non-factor, and I know that's not world-changing, but it's those little things like the insertion of Ty Johnson is a good microcosm for the differences under Brady. Does that change the integrity of the offense? No, not really, but it has a different effect and a different impact, and that's what Brady is doing. Different turnings of different dials, different buttons being pushed, and more importantly, when he's turning those dials, when he's pushing those buttons, and the sequencing of all of it. So I think that's a good point, Carl, and I appreciate you for it. As I mentioned earlier, as we start to switch segments now, if you haven't already, please, and then you drop a like on this video. It goes a sincerely long way towards helping myself and the entire team to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So if you have not already, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video for myself and the entire brand. Again, it helps the video and the channel to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So whether you're watching live now or watching later on YouTube here, please drop a like on this video if you would be so kind. Going to share my screen now, and actually, I'll bring up the banner real quick so we know what we are doing. So, piece I want to talk about is 4 strong formations under Mr. Joe Brady. And to do that, we are going to share the screen here, and let's look at some tape. Let's look up some tape. Okay, so Joe Brady, and actually, that's not even spelled correctly, and 4 strong. I don't like the way that was titled. There you go. 4 strong formations. Boom. Sorry, I'm anal for the banners. Okay. So, like I mentioned, 4 strong formation pieces. So, all the 4 strong formation is 4 eligible receivers to one side of the field and 1 to the opposite side of the field. So, if we're looking at this play right here that I have queued up, you see you have 4 to the top, running back in the backfield, and then trips bunch right in front of him. Stephon Diggs at the bottom of your screen is the 1. So there's literally 4 eligibles to one side, 1 eligible to the opposite side. And the whole piece or benefit of what you get from a 4-strong formation is they really have the ability to mess with the defense's ability to distribute routes and or space routes properly. You can pull or drain coverage versus zone. You can create traffic versus man. Overall, you stress the communication and coverage rules for a defense. Again, their spacing, their ability to distribute the routes, you're stressing them by putting all these players into these zones. And again, stressing zone coverage and man coverage as well. First play that we have queued up here for the Buffalo Bills. So I got some, ironically, 4 plays here to show for the 4 strong formations that Brady used in this game. He did some of it against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's something he's tapped into a little bit. He's been successful with it in terms of generating openings for Josh Allen and giving him some easy buttons. So the first play here is early on in this game for the Buffalo Bills. It is at 6 minutes and 28 seconds in the first quarter. And what you're going to get, I have Reggie Gilliam highlighted there in the backfield, and then I have Willie Gay highlighted for the Kansas City Chiefs linebacker at the second level. You're going to get Reggie Gilliam return motion, technically like a return orbit motion, as he's going to go around Allen and James Cook. And when you get that return motion, what that does is, as I start to play the video here, so you're going to get this return motion from Reggie Gilliam. See, there he goes to that side and watch as he orbits back around. So return motion is normally just like if you come this way and then, let me undo that. Switch the little thingy there. Return motion is normally just like if you come this way and then go back this way. Because Reggie Gilliam like comes this way and then returns this way but goes around, I'm calling it like a return orbit motion. But again, let's hit play there. There goes Reggie Gilliam. See, boom, pops it back out in that return orbit fashion. That return motion, it forces a defense to transfer a player multiple times, make multiple adjustments. It can also create leverage for an offense. And if you see, like, just watch the defense react to Reggie Gilliam. Like, they bump and they shift with him. Willie Gay widens out, and then Willie Gay has to go back and he starts communicating, right? So that's the example of, forcing the defense to transfer a player multiple times. Like, they bump left and then they have to go back. They communicate, they adjust. I highlighted Willie Gay because he is the defender that gets put into conflict here. He's going to vacate his area. Dawson Knox is going to replace him. The whole idea with what this motion does and the 4 strong formation is it makes the passing window wider for Josh Allen and gives him a simple, easy decision. You also see Nick Bolton at that second level to the top of Mr. Willie Gay, who's highlighted. He gets influence as well. What you're going to end up getting is the Kansas City Chiefs with 4 defenders over 2 for the Buffalo Bills, and then an easy aspect inside for Mr. Dawson Knox. So boom, there goes Reggie Gilliam. I'm going to slow it down. Willie Gay immediately, you see him highlighted here. He's immediately calling out Reggie Gilliam going outside. He's pointing, he's yelling, everything. Watch the Chiefs defense shift with it. And then Dawson Knox is wide open. So Willie Gay goes to the right, and eventually, so I know Cook is out here too. So 1, 2, 3 Bills players. Willie Gay was going this way, so I'm going to count him as 1, 2, 3, 4. So you basically have 4 over 3, and then you have a vacated spot for Dawson Knox. Again, so just watch Willie Gay, watch him flow to the football and follow Reggie Gilliam. Well, not flow to the football, flow with Reggie Gilliam's motion and watch him vacate his spot. Easy. And that's all you're doing. You're influencing the defense, making them transfer a player multiple times with that return orbit motion from Reggie Gilliam, vacating a space. And again, this is a simple little tweak that we've seen Joe Brady do. More pre-snap motion, more making the defense have to communicate and adjust in real time or on the fly, creates the opportunities for mistakes. And what you get here, Willie Gay vacates his zone, falls down, Dawson Knox is wide open. Show it to you from the end zone angle. So that's Nick Bolton highlighted there, number 32. Here's Willie Gay, number 50. This is Reggie Gilliam's already come in motion here. Now he's about to orbit back around. You can see the effect here. Like, look at Bolton and Willie Gay both communicating and pointing to the right. Like, they are seeing that motion. They are honoring that motion. They think the ball is going that way. Willie Gay is literally like pointing and yelling. Boom, 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 boom. And watch how hard he goes with that motion and skirt, has to throw the brakes on, wipes out. Like, look at that passing window. Like, this is absolutely gorgeous for Josh Allen. And again, if we look from that sideline angle, this is where that 4 strong concept comes in. So this one is nice because it's the motion tied with the 4 strong concept. You have defenders flooding this area because they have to honor the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. Like, it's as much as, JP talked about earlier, like offensive spacing and angles and geometry. Sometimes defense is just math against the run and against the pass. And if you have that many potential eligibles to one side, you have to throw more bodies out there, which commits more to that side, which gives you the opportunity to influence those defenders, bring somebody back against the grain into this open window, and then you have all this space here because there's only 1 eligible to this side. Boom. Really nice. Again, play from the end zone angle. Just look at that second level get influenced. Simple. Boom. Also want to pull so this is Willie Gay. This is from the other angle. Like I just wanted to highlight this because you can see him right there briefly. Like he's looking and he's saying like, damn man, like he knows like they got, like they got fooled. And it's just like those little nuances. Like this is when you know you're kind of really clicking, like you're fooling defenders, you're creating easy buttons for your offense. This was a nice job from Mr. Joe Brady. Now, let's go show another play for Buffalo Bills here. Another 4-strong option for the Bills. This is roughly what it turns into. This is the touchdown to James Cook. It's roughly like a 4-by-1. Again, 4-strong formation. All go, halfback seam. You're going to get Trent Sherfield, who I've highlighted there for the Bills. You're going to get him going across the formation in a fly or jet motion. He's going to have 2 roles on this play. One, he's going to cause the safety, Mike Edwards, who I have highlighted as well. It's going to cause Mike Edwards to spin down. And then the other function that he has is he's just going to stay in that underneath area in the flat. He's going to become the check down if needed. So we're going to start with this piece. Again, what do we have here? Cook, Kincaid, Gabe Davis. So we've got 3 to this side, right? A little bit of a different look pre-snap and then post-snap from the previous one we saw. The previous 4-strong formation was more in a bunch look. Now we have a different alignment, different formation, but the idea is still the same because a 4-strong formation just means you have 4 eligibles to one side. Trent Sherfield goes in motion. Now, again, another motion piece, another window dressing, another opportunity to create leverage and out-leverage the defense or give them some misdirection, give them some eye candy, at the very least, something else for them to think about and adjust to on the fly. Multiple benefits of having motion. Real leverage, real separation opportunity, real ability to put the defense in a bind, or at the very least, give them something to look at, think about, create some sort of hesitation in what they are doing, processing or physical movement. There goes Sherfield. Now, this is what's also nice. A nice benefit about this play is it's being run into a blitz. Trent McDuffie is going to come off the slot. So the fact that they run 4-strong into the blitz, like somebody's going to be open. There's a lot of potential options for Josh Allen. Another piece that I really love about this is the initial line alignment here. I'm going to go here so we take off the numbers. Dalton Kincaid is the 2. James Cook is the 3. For those who don't know, basically what you do on offense, well, from a defensive perspective, offensive 2, you number the eligibles outside in. So Gabe Davis is 1, Kincaid is 2, James Cook is 3. On this side, Sherfield is 1, Dawson Knox is 2. Like you're just going outside in. So right now, Kincaid is the 2, James Cook is the 3. On the snap, Kincaid's going to come inside and Cook's going to come here. So they're going to flip roles. Kincaid, who is the 2, becomes the 3, and James Cook, who is the 3, essentially becomes the 2. And what that does is, on the snap as we go here, watch. Okay, so we got that blitz from McDuffie. He comes through. Kincaid becoming the 3 and going inside changes Nick Bolton's responsibility right here. So Nick Bolton has to honor Dalton Kincaid. So he goes to reroute Dalton Kincaid. He's on Kincaid. Now, we talked about earlier, Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards comes spinning up, or spinning down, I should say, because he sees that motion. All his momentum is carrying him forward. So the seam route from Cook works against Edwards because he's coming forward with that momentum as he spins down to honor the jet motion. So he's spinning down while Cook is flying upfield on the seam. And then we get a really quick and good decision from Josh Allen. He hits it immediately before the defense can even react or adjust. Watch this all play out in real time. There goes Sherfield. Kincaid goes inside. Edwards spins down. Boom, wide open. And the nice little somersault into the end zone. Again, all these pieces, the motion that creates the opportunity for leverage. And again, let's highlight Sherfield here, like I mentioned, because he is that check down option. Like if all else fails, Allen can just chuck it down here. Like if everybody sits and stays and they distribute this correctly, cool. You've got somebody wide open underneath in a no cover zone. But again, what happens? Edwards comes spinning down so hard and he starts to try and slam on the brakes here, but he can't. And Cook is already by him. And then on the inside, Bolton is relating to Kincaid. So he's occupied with Kincaid. And as he's occupied with Kincaid, and as Edwards is spinning down because of the jet motion or that fly motion, Cook just runs between both of them on that seam. Tutty. Beautiful. The timing, again, we'll run it in real time one more time. Good timing, good design. We talked about a bunch on the show and in the film room of Joe Brady's ability to get his running backs involved as primary options in a pass or just as a natural part of the progression in the route distribution is more than just a check down receiver. Here's another example of that. Again, great design. And again, we get similar to the first play. We have motion leading to a 4-strong formation, which again, 4 strong formations, they mess with the defense's ability to distribute routes or space them properly. You're pulling coverage or draining coverage versus zone. You can create traffic versus man. Overall, the whole premise, you are stressing communication and coverage rules for a defense. And that's what you get a little bit here. Nick Bolton has to relate to the new number 3, which is Dalton Kincaid. Edwards goes flying up too much over the top, and they get gouged. Great play. Great call from Joe Brady. Great execution from the offense. Now, another 4-strong formation from the Bills in this game, but it ends up being a run. So I have James Cook highlighted there. So Cook is going to shift right before the snap to the left side of Josh Allen, which will then make it a 4-strong because we've got our 3 here. We've got James Cook over here, so that'll end up making it 4. Right now, we basically got like a 3-by-2, not technically a 3-by-1 with a Cook in the backfield, but again, if we're going with this numbering thing, 1, 2, 3, and then out here you've got 1 and then 2. So you've got a 3-by-1 with Cook in a gun look next to Josh Allen. You're going to get a run this time instead of a pass, but again, the whole premise, this 4-strong look, and the Bills continuing to run it, different options, different variations, right? The first play we showed came from an initial bunch. We got that return orbit motion. Second time was more of an exploded formation. We got a jet or fly motion that led to the 4-by-1, and then Cook coming out of the backfield on a switch with Kincaid that created that, jet all go halfback seam type of look play call. Now it's just a run. So again, my whole point I want to show here is this 4-strong formation works in the past, but you can also just run the ball out of it. And the Bills find success on this one. So it's a run this time instead of a pass. Watch Cook shift here. Boom. Now it's a 4-strong because we've got 4 eligibles to one side. So it falls in this category. And the big thing I want to highlight here is just the run execution. And if you folks watch this show enough, you know I am a fan of running the football, and I think it's important for this team. I want you to watch from the end zone angle here. Mr. George Karlaftis, number 56, off the left edge, but on the right here on your screen. Watch as he reads the mesh in the backfield from Josh Allen, and that mesh holds George Karlaftis, and that hesitation is the reason that he can't get to James Cook. This is some of the benefit we're starting to see with this offense is Josh Allen starts to run a little bit more, either by scrambles or with the design runs. As his legs become more of a legitimate threat, defenses have to honor that threat, and they get caught in conflict at times. So here's Mr. George Karlaftis, number 56. Watch, he comes down. He has to read what's going on. He displays that surf technique. He's trying to read the mesh point. Cook already has the ball, but he broke down, and he just had to make sure. Now he reads, but look at his angle is off, his timing is off just because of that hesitation. Instead of getting Cook in front of his face and more into his shoulder, he's grasping at his backside and can't get anything. And then Edwards is forced to make a play at the second level. Watch it from this angle. Here is Mr. George Karlaftis. Again, watch it in real time. Has to honor the mesh point. Oh, and that slight hesitation. Look at the angle. If he doesn't have to honor that, he's able to get more out in front and is able to take Cook. And especially with Josh Allen's legs paired with a running back like James Cook, who has that speed, who has that juice. If you hesitate against a James Cook, he's going to burn you because his speed changes angles. And if you're not on point, he's going to blow by you. And that's what it is here. Karlaftis is just a half step too slow because he had to hesitate and honor Josh Allen as a runner. And look where he's trying to get James Cook. He's grasping both arms out, extended instead of being in front and get more of a shoulder into Cook's shoulder or a shoulder into the torso or thighs or just getting a solid grasp. He can't. And that's all because, again, of that mesh point. So here's Mr. George Karlaftis. Let's watch that mesh. Boom. See, he's sitting. His eyes are on it. He's trying. Okay, is Allen keeping it? No, he's not. Cool. It's a run. Uh-oh. And I got beat. Grasping at air. Also, another point I wanted to highlight on this run, Mr. Osiris Torrance and Mr. Spencer Brown. Look at the wall that they create for James Cook on this play. Just completely sealed off. Beautiful. Helps Cook get to the second level. Watch it from this side again. Torrance and Spencer Brown go in real time. Look at that. Nice double team. Work to the second level on Chenal. That's a great job. They're double teaming Chris Jones. Chenal declares. Torrance comes off of him, climbs, gets that paw on the outside, turns him, seals him. Really good job from them two creating that wall and helping to create that alley. And then also another good job, Mitch Morse here at center. Watch the slight punch that he gives to 93. Boom, right there. That helps turn him and allows McGovern to turn and seal him. So that help from Mitch Morse is what creates the seal here. We talked about Torrance and Brown on the other side, help creating the seal, and then Dawkins wrapping around on that tackle wrap / dart play. We have a really nice alleyway for Cook. Like as a running back, all jokes aside, when you're going through the hole, you want to see the backside of your offensive lineman because you know that alley, that hole is sealed. And that's what you got there. That's beautiful. You're looking at backside there. And then Mitch Morse came through, and after he helped with this feed block right here, climbs to the second level, gets a piece of Nick Bolton, allows Cook to help get by him. And again, nice 12-yard gain on 2nd and 10. So another successful aspect and option out of a 4-strong look, this time a run instead of a pass. But success nonetheless. Now, let's go to our last play here. Okay, got Reggie Gilliam highlighted there. This is another one with a Reggie Gilliam return orbit motion. Again, similar to what we had on the very first play we showed, right? We had a 3-by-1 bunch look. Reggie Gilliam's going to come over here, and then he's going to do the return orbit motion. He's going to come back this way around Allen and around Cook. But this time, the linebackers of the second level don't move with him. So Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, both of these guys right here, this time, they don't go with Reggie Gilliam. And this is where you have a nice wrinkle and a nice tweak from Joe Brady. He's going to include a fake toss on this one. And that is what moves Bolton. That is what moves Willie Gay. And that allows them to both vacate their spot, Dawson Knox to clear them, and being able to work into the voided space. So remember that first play we showed, right? Bolton and Willie Gay were communicating. They were bumping. They were pushing. Gilliam went on that orbit motion, on that return orbit motion. Willie Gay went with it, tried to put on the brakes, slipped, fell, wide open for Dawson Knox, right? There's Reggie Gilliam, goes across. Oh, here he comes on the return. And look at, you see some of the communication. Like Nick Bolton is already talking to Leo Chenal. He's telling Chenal to bump. So Bolton got the handout. He's talking to Chenal. And you watch, remember, again, that first time, Bolton bumped, Willie Gay bumped, and it created all this space here, right? Not this time. Bolton has Chenal bump. Willie Gay and Bolton stay in the center, even though Gilliam's got that motion going to the side. But so they're both staying in their ground at that second level, right? Watch the impact the fake toss has. So Allen's going to get this ball. He's going to fake toss it here to Cook. Watch the action from Bolton. Watch the action from Willie Gay. Because again, this is all designed to get them out of that spot. They go with that fake toss. And what happens? There goes Mr. Dawson Knox right into that voided space. Very similar to that first play we showed, right? But the first play, the motion, that natural return orbit motion from Gilliam is what drew Bolton and specifically Willie Gay out of their space. So there goes the orbit motion, right? But they're not flying with it. They're sitting. They're staying at home because they know what happened the first time. They've adjusted. That's why Chenal is going to be the one to bump out so they can maintain leverage. So they're sitting. They're staying home. But then here comes the toss, and it gets them both out. And there's Dawson Knox wide open. Nice little wrinkle from Joe Brady, taking something that worked earlier, showing a very similar look, and using, this is that whole like, I know what you know, what I know type of thing, showing that similar look and anticipating, okay, they're going to know this is coming. Let's add this little wrinkle to make sure they clear out that space. Again, Bolton, Willie Gay, you see Bolton already starting to communicate to Chenal. He's telling him like, chill, okay, bump out. We showed it on the other angle too, but also, you get that like kind of that false pull from Osiris Torrance here that helps sell that run action as the front like reads that flash of color. Nice fake from Cook and from Josh Allen. Like Cook is hands up. He's horizontal. He's taking that skip step. Like, cool, give me the ball. Look at the eyes on Allen, eyes on Cook. They're read and run. Plus, they know the motion went to that side. So the thought is, okay, Reggie Gilliam's going to be a lead blocker. Nope. Wide open again. Look at the alley, or the passing window, I should say, for Allen to hit Dawson Knox. Could put him on a little bit more instead of leading him out in front and kind of out into the hit there from Justin Reed, but that's fine. It's football. Again, very similar to the first play, but the wrinkle on this one is the fake toss to Cook. That is what moves Nick Bolton, and that is what moves Willie Gay. Whereas the first time Brady called this, it was just that natural motion that caused them to move. So this is good. Building upon something, building upon a concept and a formation, using the defense's anticipated adjustment against them to create a wide open look and an easy button for Josh Allen. I expect to continue to see these types of plays from the Bills offense under Joe Brady. These 4 strong concepts aren't unique to the Bills. They're popular in today's NFL, so it's nice to see Brady kind of pushing this button to give that easy button to Josh Allen in this Bills offense. Again, that 4 strong formation, it can look and feel different. You can come out in a variety of ways, but the whole idea is a 4 strong formation is just 4 eligibles to one side of the field and 1 to the opposite. It could start out that way. It could motion that way. It could be a return motion. It could be fly motion, jet motion, orbit. It does not matter. Whatever gets you to having 4 eligibles to one side of the field and 1 to the opposite. And again, the whole idea is it messes with a defense's ability to distribute routes and space them properly. You can pull or drain coverages versus zone, create traffic versus man. Overall, you are stressing the communication and coverage rules for a defense. And like in the one example we showed, you can also build some runs into it and build some success that way, which we have seen Joe Brady and this Bills offense do. Man, this has been a tremendous episode. I'm wiped. I gotta get out of here. It's past 11 o'clock. Before any of you folks leave, please, and thank you. Drop a like on this video. It goes a sincerely long way. Like I mentioned earlier, just towards helping myself and the entire team to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So if you have not already, whether you're watching live now or watching later on YouTube, please, and thank you. Drop a like on this video. If you are listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool. That's very much appreciated. Please rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage on whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on. Subscribe to Disguise Coverage here on YouTube as well, and to the Cover One brand as a whole. We have you covered every single day of the week for anything and everything Buffalo Bills, varying levels of analysis and entertainment pieces that we got here on the brand. I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. If you did, please tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome this show is. If you did not enjoy this episode, tell your enemies. I will appreciate the support and the word of mouth any way that I can, so tell your loved ones about how awesome it is and try and brighten their day, or tell your enemies and try and ruin their day with this show. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in live. Thank you to everyone who watched later, listened later, whatever have you. Thank you for any and every ounce of support you put towards myself and towards this brand. Thank you very much to Carl for the super chat. Thank you very much to Mr. JP Acosta of SB Nation for riding with me for about an hour and a half, talking X's and O's and scheme of Bills Cowboys. It was awesome. The time flew by. So thank you to him. Thank you to everybody who watched live, watch later, listen later, whatever have you. Any kind words that came through for JP. Appreciate you folks. Kind words for myself. All that good stuff. I appreciate you folks more than you will possibly know. Go get yourself some One Pie Pizza if you live in the Buffalo area, and or drop off some Toys for Tots at their location. You get the opportunity to win prizes and awesome stuff. And even if you don't, it's just good to help out the less fortunate at times during the holidays. So please and thank you. Toys for Tots. Take care. Godspeed. I will see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, next Tuesday for another episode of Disguise Coverage. Or if you're a fan of the Film Room, you can join myself and Eric Turner tomorrow night, Wednesday, December 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Cover One Film Room. We'll be breaking down a bunch of stuff from Bills versus Chiefs. But until then, Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.